Chapter 1875. Senior Human Demon. Take this opportunity to attack. Ningyu hastily transmitted his voice to the human demon with a solemn expression as he watched Mo Min charge towards him. At the same time, Ningyu's figure flickered as he raised his right hand and pressed it down. Sky splitting. As soon as Ningyu uttered the words sky splitting, an extremely terrifying wave of yuan chi rushed towards Mo Min chi. Ningyu's attack caused the void above the Pill Emperor Square to explode. Damn it! Mo Min's expression turned extremely ugly when he saw Ningyu's attack. He had originally thought that no matter how strong Ningyu was, he wouldn't be a match for him. However, when he saw Ningyu's attack, Mo Min knew that he was wrong. Very wrong. Perhaps it was because Ningyu's attack didn't show that there was a huge gap between the two of them. However, when Ningyu's second attack was unleashed, Mo Min was shocked. Palm of Fortune. Ningyu didn't care about Mo Min's shocked expression. He raised his right hand and swung it down again. A palm print appeared above Ningyu's head and grew larger and larger. In the end, the palm print even enveloped the entire Pill Emperor Square. I think we might have misunderstood Ningyu. Wu Potion's expression turned gray for the first time when he saw Ningyu unleash two terrifying attacks in a row. In the beginning, Wu Patian felt that although Ningyu was strong, there was still a huge gap between him and Ningyu. At the very least, he could kill Ningyu given his strength. However, after seeing Ningyu unleash two attacks in a row, Wu Patian felt that Ningyu was terrifying to the point that Ningyu could fight him head-on. The density of Ningyu's yuan chi should be able to contend against us. Beside Wu Patian, War God Crane also said solemnly, moreover, the moves that Ningyu used are not weak. Perhaps the only difference between us and Ningyu is cultivation. War God Crane and Wu Patian were not fools. With just a glance, they discovered the crux of the problem. Ningyu's two attacks were as powerful as their trump cards. Even if they used their trump cards, the power would not be much different from Ningyu's attack. Saint Martial Technique. Almost at the same time, Wu Patian and the Battle Divine Crane exchanged a glance and saw the shock in each other's eyes. While they were shocked, they could also see the excitement in each other's eyes. It was a Saint Martial skill. In the immortal spirit realm, their cultivation had already reached the pinnacle. As long as the problem of the plane barrier was not solved, they would never be able to break through to the perfect sage realm. Under the premise that they could not break through to the perfect sage realm, the only way to increase their strength was to cultivate the Saint Martial technique. Around the Alchemy Emperor Square, many people had the same thought as Wu Patian and the Battle Divine Crane. Previously, everyone was still laughing at Ningyu and did not care about Ningyu's life or death. But now, Ningyu's life no longer belonged to him. It could be said that almost all the experts hoped that Ningyu would win, because only if Ningyu won would they have the chance to obtain the Saint Martial technique. Divine Sword Wave. The shock that Ningyu brought to the crowd had yet to come. He grabbed the air with his left hand, and a stream of yuan chi gathered on his palm. Then he used his left hand as a flying sword and slashed down. What? If Ningyu's two Saint Martial techniques had shocked the crowd, then Ningyu's third Saint Martial technique made everyone's jaws drop, and their faces were filled with disbelief. I must get the Saint Martial technique. At this moment, almost everyone who guessed that Ningyu was using a Saint Martial technique looked at Ningyu fervently, hoping that they could get their hands on it. Bang! 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 Ningyu's first three attacks sent Mo Min flying, and he lost his ability to resist. Just as Mo Min was about to escape, Ningyu clenched his right fist and chased after him. Almost in the blink of an eye, Ningyu was in front of Mo Min Dai. Ningyu's iron-like fist landed on Mo Min's chest. Crack! Ningyu's fist broke Mo Min's chest. Ha ha! You can't kill me. Origin. Seeing that he was about to be killed by Ningyu, Mo Min suddenly threw his head back and laughed. However, before Mo Min could finish the words origin energy, he vomited blood and died on the spot. Rumble. Before Mo Min's death could cause the crowd to cry out, the human demon and Gong Yangqing were fighting on the other side. Everyone's attention shifted from the battle between Ning Yu and Mo Min to the battle between the human demon and Gong Yanqing. After all, compared to Ning Yu and Mo Min, the human demon and Gong Yanqing were much stronger. It seems like Gong Yanqing didn't use his full strength. Wu Patian frowned slightly as he looked at the fierce battle in midair. Gong Yanqing didn't use his full strength because he didn't dare to. The divine war crane nodded and said, "We're all watching from the side. If I were Gong Yanqing, I wouldn't use my full strength either." "That makes sense," Wu Patian said. "Let's wait and see." Rumble. The battle continued. Although the strength that Gong Yanqing displayed was slightly weaker than the human demon, it was harder for the human demon to kill Gong Yanqing. After fighting for roughly half an hour, the two sides suddenly separated. Gong Yanqing retreated to the side with a pinnacle Saint Realm martial artist, Mo Ming, standing behind him. The human demon retreated to the side with the little Qilin, Ning Lu, and the rest standing behind him. "I admit that I've underestimated you." Although the little Qilin and the rest have been snatched away, Gong Yanqing wasn't worried at all. Instead, the corner of his lips rose as he said, "But we'll stop here for today. It's not over yet." Although the crowd was a little doubtful about Gong Yanqing's words, Ning Lu and the little Qilin weren't. They roared and immediately took action, kicking Sun Feng, Chong Tian, the Talisman Sovereign, and Haoping, and the rest towards Gong Yanqing. As for the remaining Old Man Tianji, Yin Mu, and Ziyun, they were pushed towards Ning Yu by Ning Lu and the little Qilin. Boom! Just as Ning Yu and the little Qilin moved, Gong Yanqing suddenly had a thought and triggered the blood demon seed in the bodies of Sun Feng and the rest. Not good, retreat. The explosion of Sun Feng and the rest was extremely powerful. If it was only the explosion of a blood demon seed, the power might not be that powerful. But Sun Feng, Chong Tian, the Talisman Sovereign, and Haoping all had blood demon seeds in their bodies. Chapter 1876. Boom! Before Sun Feng and the others exploded, everyone in the Pill Emperor's Plaza had already vaguely guessed something. However, there was nothing they could do even if they guessed it. In virtually an instant, Gong Yanqing detonated the blood devil seeds in Sun Feng and the rest's bodies. The explosion of the 4 blood demon seeds was as powerful as the attack of an ancient almighty. It instantly enveloped the entire Alchemy Emperor Square. "Everyone, let's attack together. We must resist this explosion." At such a dangerous moment, the sage who was hiding in the void had no choice but to make a move. These peak sages knew very well that it was basically impossible for them to withstand the self-destruction of 4 blood demon seeds with just their strength alone. Therefore, they chose to ally with the people in the Alchemy Emperor Plaza. How big was the Pill Emperor Plaza? Once everyone in the square joined forces, not to mention 4 blood demon seeds, even 5 blood demon seeds would be able to resist. "Everyone run. It'll be too late if we delay any longer." "That's right, run. Run away quickly." The power of this self-destruction is probably equivalent to the self-destruction of a saint in the Great Perfection Realm. If we stay here, we will definitely die. "That's right. If the sky falls, let the tall ones hold it up. What does that have to do with us?" At this moment, the Pill Emperor Square had long since become a mess. Even if a peak saint appeared to maintain the situation, it would be of no use. Usually, everyone would still listen to the words of a pinnacle sage. After all, a pinnacle sage was already in the upper echelons of the immortal spirit state. However, who would listen to the instructions of a peak sage martial artist now? Die. Seeing that no one listened to him, Wu Patian from the martial domain, the peak sage who had spoken just now, waved his hands repeatedly. Pucci. Wu Patian was no weaker than Mo Min. His first move was a killing move, directly killing all those who tried to escape. The rest of the peak sage realm martial artists did not stop Wu Patian. At the moment of life and death, how could they allow these people to disturb the morale of the army, to exist? Rise. After killing hundreds of escaping martial artists, Wu Patian immediately stopped. At the same time, the yuan qi in his body crazily surged out, forming a huge protective barrier above his head. Seeing this, the rest of the peak sage martial artists hurriedly released their primordial chi and injected it into the protective barrier. Everyone, let's attack together. We must stop this catastrophe. That's right. Let's act quickly. If we delay any longer, we'll all die. Inject Yuan Qi into the protective barrier. Wu Potion's powerful attack, as well as the destructive power of the 4 blood demon seeds self-destruction, caused the expressions of the cultivators in the Pill Emperor's Plaza to change drastically. They all chose to compromise. How many martial artists were there in the Alchemy Emperor Plaza? Perhaps it would not have much of an effect if a person injected his primordial chi into the protective shield. But what about 2? What about 100? What about 1,000? If the Yuan Qi of so many cultivators were gathered together, it would be enough to withstand the attack of a sage at the Great Perfection stage, or even a cultivator who had surpassed the sage level. Above the Alchemy Sovereign Plaza, when Gong Yanqing saw everyone join hands to set up an enormous essence energy protective barrier, his expression changed slightly on the spot, and he said with a cold snort, "A mantis trying to stop a chariot. Courting death. Mo Ming, I allow you to use your source energy." Turning his head to look at Mo Ming, Gong Yanqing said in a deep voice, "You can use the source energy that can maintain you at the Sage Peak for 3 minutes. Your task is to take down the person who attacked me just now." "Got it." Mo Ming's expression was solemn as he nodded heavily. Then his figure flashed, and he rushed toward the human demon. As Mo Ming rushed forward, he took out a jade bottle from his arms and threw it into his mouth along with the jade bottle. As the jade bottle entered his stomach, Mo Ming's aura increased rapidly. With every step he took, Mo Ming's aura increased a little. In the end, Mo Ming's aura had broken through the limit and reached the Sage Peak realm. What? The aura of the Sage Peak realm that Mo Ming revealed made the martial artists who were struggling in the Alchemy Emperor Plaza change their expressions dramatically. In particular, Wu Patian and Divine War Crane, who were at the peak of the Sage Peak, were even more livid. They were trying their best to resist the aftermath of the 4 blood demon seeds self-destruction. Once Mo Ming rushed into the battlefield after the self-destruction, they would become lambs waiting to be slaughtered, fish on the chopping board. What should we do? Wu Patian turned his head to look at Divine War Crane and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, that person's target is not us." Divine War Crane didn't seem too worried. He pointed to the human demon next to Ning Yu and said, "If I'm not wrong, his target is that expert, not us." Wu Patian was surprised, but the worry in his heart was slightly reduced. Although they could escape from a martial artist at the Sage Peak realm, they would have to pay a heavy price. No one could afford to pay such a price. Now that Mo Ming's target was the human demon, their worry was at least reduced by half. No. Suddenly, Wu Patian seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened as he stared at Ning Yu and the others in disbelief. Because Wu Patian discovered that Ning Yu and the others were not affected by the self-destruction of the 4 blood demon seeds. Wu Patian was so shocked that he was almost speechless. They had worked hard to coerce and lure the martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Plaza to deal with the self-destruction of the blood demon seeds. Even so, the final result was still unknown. However, as the instigators of this incident, Ning Yu and the others were floating in midair, looking carefree and unfettered. The aftermath of the self-destruction of the blood demon seeds doesn't seem to have any effect on them. Aside from Wu Patian, the other Pinnacle Sage realm martial artists, including Divine War Crane, also discovered that Ning Yu and the others were unusual. The one who attacked is the martial artist next to Ning Yu. A sharp-eyed Pinnacle Sage realm martial artist pointed at Ning Lu and exclaimed. The Pinnacle Sage realm martial artist's exclamation made everyone shift their gaze to Ning Lu. Ning Lu's current cultivation had already dropped to the Sky Supreme realm. Even though Ning Yu had given him a large number of immortal crystals to maintain the condition of his body, the situation was still terrible. In Zhao Hang's words, Ning Lu might not be able to hold on for long. Ning Lu can only hold on for 3 days at most. Zhao Hang looked at Ning Lu, who was struggling in the air, and said with a grave expression, "If he can't find a large amount of energy to replenish himself in 3 days, his cultivation might drop to the true martial realm, or even the Xiantian realm. Once his cultivation drops to the Xiantian realm," Zhao Hang did not continue his sentence. Although Zhao Hang did not continue, everyone knew what he meant. In the Wuhong cave, in order to help everyone escape, Ning Lu forcefully used a secret technique to advance to the initial stage sage realm, which caused an indelible illness in his body. Originally, Ning Lu could still hold on for many days. However, in the Alchemy Union, Ning Lu and Little Kylan worked together to expel the blood demon seeds from his body, which consumed too much energy. Chapter 1877. Cough, cough. Ning Lu coughed and said, "Don't worry, I can hold on for at least 10 days. As he spoke, Ning Lu forced out a drop of blood essence from his body and threw it into the small protective barrier in front of him. Even Wu Patian and the rest had to join forces with many cultivators to set up a protective barrier to resist the explosion of the 4 blood demon seeds, let alone Ning Lu. The reason why the small protective barrier that Ning Lu set up could withstand the explosion of the 4 blood demon seeds was because he was constantly forcing out blood essence and using the world tree's blood essence to maintain the barrier. Apart from Ning Lu, the little Qilin also forced out a drop of blood essence from time to time and injected it into the small protective barrier. As for Old Man Tianji, Yin Mu, Ziyun, Yi Jiansong, and Meng Chang'an, they all took out their trump cards, hoping that the small protective barrier could last for a while longer. After all, once the small protective barrier was broken, they would face a devastating blow. I wonder if Senior Human Demon can defeat Mo Ming. Ning Yu looked at the battlefield in the sky and couldn't help worrying. Although Ning Yu believed in the human demon's fighting strength, this was the celestial spirit realm. Without origin energy, it was basically impossible for him to display the fighting strength of a sage perfection stage. Did the human demon have origin energy? The answer was obviously no. The human demon didn't have origin energy, so he couldn't display the fighting strength of a sage perfection stage. But Mo Ming had origin energy, so he could display the fighting strength of a sage perfection stage. The difference between the two was obvious. Don't worry, I just gave Senior Human Demon a blood demon seed. As if he could see the worry in Ning Yu's heart, the corner of Ning Lu's lips rose as he said, "With Senior Human Demon's ability and the blood demon seed in your hand, isn't it easy to deal with Mo Ming? You gave Human Demon a blood demon seed?" Ning Yu was surprised. The reason why the blood demon seed was terrifying was because of the power of its explosion. Without a secret technique, it was impossible to control its explosion. Now that Ning Lu said that he gave Human Demon a blood demon seed, it meant that he had already mastered the method of controlling the blood demon seed in the sky. How could Ning Yu not be surprised? I told you before that Gong Yangqing also planted a blood demon seed in me and Little Qilin. Ning Lu explained. Fortunately, the Qilin bloodline in Little Qilin's body is very pure, and it did not hesitate to consume a large amount of Qilin blood to force the blood devil seed out of our bodies. After forcing out the blood demon seed, Little Kylan used a secret technique to control the blood demon seed. The human demon's words shocked Yi Jiansong and the rest to the extreme. They originally thought that Little Qilin's cultivation was much lower than theirs, so they did not put Little Qilin in their eyes. Who would have thought that the one who truly grasped the method to control the blood demon seed was the Little Kylan and not Ning Lu? This time, the way they looked at Little Qilin had changed. Ning Lu said that they had obtained 2 blood devil seeds, and he had given one to the human devil. Didn't that mean that the other was in the Little Qilin's hands? As Yi Jiansong and the others were gasping in shock, Ning Lu mentally messaged Ning Yu, "The little Kirin already knows that I am the world tree." Hiss! Hearing Ning Lu's words, Ning Yu could not help but gasp. As for what Ning Lu had said about the blood demon seed, Ning Yu did not care about whether it was true or not. Right now, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was that Little Qilin knew that Ning Lu was the world tree. The reason why Ningyu was so worried was not because he did not believe in Little Qilin. On the contrary, he trusted Little Qilin very much. However, believing in Little Qilin did not mean that Ningyu believed in the entire Qilin clan, because there would be traitors in any clan. What Ningyu was worried about was that there was a traitor in the Qilin clan, and that the traitor knew what Little Qilin was thinking through some secret technique. Rumble. At this moment, in the void, the battle had gradually reached its climax. Even though the human demon had not reached the Saint Full Completion realm, he still had the power to fight Mo Ming, who was at the Saint Full Completion realm. Is he still human? He should be from a higher plane. Otherwise, it's impossible for a pinnacle saint to fight a Saint Full Completion realm cultivator. That's right. A Saint Full Completion realm is already half a step into another realm. In the Pill Emperor's Plaza, everyone was shocked to the extreme. Looking through the ancient records, they had never heard of a pinnacle saint defeating a Saint Full Completion realm cultivator. Of course, those cultivators were only heavenly sovereigns, as well as those who did not know the inside story. The faces of the upper echelons of the major forces turned grave. It was said that in ancient times, pinnacle saint defeating a Saint Full Completion realm cultivator was rare, but it wasn't impossible. It was just that after the devastating battle in ancient times, the cultivation conditions of the celestial spirit realm had changed, so it was impossible to cultivate to the Saint Full Completion realm. No one could cultivate to the Saint Full Completion realm, so there was naturally no record of a battle between a pinnacle saint and a Saint Full Completion realm cultivator. I'm so pissed. In the void, Mo Ming was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He initially thought that after reaching the Saint Full Completion realm with his origin energy, his strength would be sufficient to suppress the human demon. But who could have imagined that, not to mention suppressing the human demon, it would be extremely difficult for him to even fight on par with the human demon? Flustered and exasperated, Mo Ming constantly launched his attacks, hoping to injure the human demon. However, in the face of Mo Ming's attack, human demon was able to deal with it with ease. Furthermore, as he fought with Mo Ming, he said to Gong Yanqing, who was in the void on the other side, "If you don't do it yourself, do you think that trash can deal with me?" Arg. The human demon ridiculed Mo Ming in front of Gong Yanqing, causing Mo Ming to roar. As a Saint Full Completion realm cultivator, he was actually ridiculed by a pinnacle saint. Where was his face? Under his rage, Mo Ming frantically attacked the human demon. "I'm not going to make a move. I'm afraid that you're seeing things." Facing the human demon's ridicule, the corner of Gong Yanqing's lips rose as he faintly said, "Look over there." As he spoke, he stretched his right hand out and pointed in the direction of Ningyu's party. Crack! The void beside Ningyu suddenly exploded, and a monster with the head of a human and the body of a horse with 6 horns suddenly appeared. Six-horn monster. The everlasting cave. Seeing the sudden appearance of the 6-horn monster, not only did Ningyu's party's expression change, but even the human demon who was fighting with Mo Ming in the air also had a drastic change in expression. One had to know that even in a high-level plane, the everlasting cave was an extremely terrifying existence. The human demon originally thought that after the everlasting cave in the immortal spirit realm was destroyed, the everlasting cave had lost its connection with the immortal spirit realm and could no longer send people to the immortal spirit realm. Unexpectedly, Gong Yanqing gave them this convenience, allowing them to enter the immortal spirit realm through the origin energy. Chapter 1878. Oh no, Senior Human Demon is in danger. Seeing the appearance of the 6-horned monster, Ningyu's expression immediately changed, and he exclaimed. Back in the Wuhang cave, Ningyu had already seen the terrifying strength of this monster. The strength of this monster varied according to the number of horns on its head. The more horns it had, the more powerful it was. The 6-horned monster's strength was comparable to the weakest martial artist in the Saint Perfection realm. Even the weakest martial artist in the Saint Perfection realm was a martial artist in the Saint Perfection realm. Mo Ming had already used his origin energy to display the strength of a martial artist in the same perfection realm. Now that the six-horned monster had joined the battle, could the human demon still have the upper hand? In fact, many people had already concluded that the human demon was finished. It's a pity that his cultivation is only at the peak of the saint perfection realm. That's right. If he had the cultivation of a martial artist in the saint perfection realm, I'm afraid he could sweep through the entire celestial spirit realm and compete with Gong Yangqing. It's hard to say. Gong Yangqing has many trump cards. Haven't you noticed that Gong Yangqing hasn't really made a move yet? Whoosh! As soon as the martial artist finished speaking, there was an uproar all around. Yes, everyone seemed to have overlooked Gong Yangqing's strength. Until now, Gong Yangqing had only detonated 4 blood demon seeds. The self-detonation of 4 blood demon seeds made everyone forget Gong Yangqing's strength. Gong Yangqing, do you think you can compete with me by relying on this six-horned monster and that trash Mo Ming? After a short moment of shock, the human demon instantly regained his composure. At this moment, the human demon floated in the air with his hands behind his back and said proudly, "I didn't want to fight you so early, but since you're courting death, I have no choice but to start a massacre." The moment the word kill was heard, the human demon suddenly turned into a shadow and charged straight at Gong Yangqing. Swoosh! Swoosh! Seeing the human demon rush out, Mo Ming and the six-horned monster hurriedly moved to block his path. "Those who block me will die." A cold light shot out of the human demon's eyes, and his hands pressed down heavily. As the human demon's hands pressed down, a terrifying wave of yuan qi formed, and then split into 2. One rushed towards Mo Ming, and the other rushed towards the six-horned monster. Ningyu, catch it! On the other side, Ningyu was secretly worrying for the human demon when he suddenly heard the human demon's voice. Hearing human demon's words, Ningyu was a little confused. But soon, Ningyu understood, because he found that Mo Ming was not able to block the essence chi wave of the human devil, and his body flew straight towards him. Origin energy! How smart was Ningyu? In an instant, he understood the human demon's intentions. Mo Ming could only unleash the combat power of a perfected sage by using his origin energy. The human demon pushed Mo Ming towards him. It was obvious that he wanted him to seize the source energy within Mo Ming's body. When he was at the city governor's mansion, he had seized a wisp of origin energy from Mo Ming's body, allowing his cultivation base to rise to the mid-stage sage realm. Now, the source power in Mo Ming's body was much purer than before. Moreover, in order to use the source energy to hide from the plane barrier of the celestial spirit realm, Mo Ming had already refined the source energy. In other words, as long as Ningyu could kill Mo Ming and seize the source energy in his body, he could devour it immediately. Once he devoured the source energy, Ningyu even had the chance to break through to the late-stage sage realm immediately. Sky splitting. Thinking of this, Ningyu immediately made his move. Once he made his move, it was a killing move. Sky splitting was the 12th move of the Emperor God technique, and it was extremely powerful. In addition, when Ningyu used sky splitting, he also used demonic lotus flame. Therefore, as soon as Mo Ming came into contact with sky splitting, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body was on the verge of collapsing. Run! Mo Ming was indeed a top powerhouse. He knew that in his current state, it was impossible for him to resist Ningyu's attack. Therefore, he chose to run away at the first moment. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. As long as he could run away, when he recovered to his peak state, he was confident that killing Ningyu would be as easy as killing a dog. Would Ningyu let Mo Ming escape? The answer was obviously no. At your peak, you would definitely be able to escape from me, but now, you are destined to be unable to escape from the palm of my hand. The corner of Ningyu's mouth rose, and then he displayed Divine Sword Wave and Good Fortune Palm together. Under the siege of 3 sage-level martial skills, Mo Ming only lasted for 3 seconds before he was killed. Swoosh! As soon as Mo Ming's front foot died, a cold light flew out of his body and flew straight towards Gong Yangqing, who was fighting with a demonic human in midair. "Where are you going?" Ningyu was quick to react. He leaped into the air and blocked the cold light. Devour. Subsequently, while Gong Yangqing was still in midair, Ningyu swallowed the source energy into his mouth. "You're dead." Gong Yangqing was exasperated. Source energy was the most precious thing in the immortal spirit realm, and even he didn't have much of it. Back then, Mo Ming had only lost a little bit of source energy in the City Lord residence, and he was almost killed by him. Now that Ningyu had killed Mo Ming and seized so much source energy, how could he sit back and do nothing? Get lost. The furious Gong Yangqing used his full strength. His palm brought with it a violent gust of yuan qi and soul force, ruthlessly smashing towards the demonic human. At the critical moment, the demonic human grabbed the six-horned monster and threw it at Gong Yangqing. Crack! Facing the gust of yuan qi and soul force, the six-horned monster only managed to resist for 3 seconds before it was split in half. Although the six-horned monster only resisted for 3 seconds, it gave the demonic human a chance to escape. The demonic human forcibly tore through the void and appeared in front of Ningyu. Use all your strength to maintain the stability of the protective barrier. The demonic human waved his hands repeatedly, unreservedly injecting the yuan qi in his body into the protective barrier. Now, the purpose of the small protective barrier was not only to withstand the self-destruction of the blood demon seed, but also to withstand Gong Yangqing's attack. Crack! Gong Yangqing's attack was extremely ruthless. With just one move, the protective barrier trembled and emitted a crisp cracking sound. Puchi! Puchi! As the two most important people in maintaining the protective barrier, the demonic human and Ning Lu both vomited a large mouthful of blood. At this moment, Gong Yangqing finally revealed his most ferocious side. The strength of a third-grade monarch-ranked soul force, and the cultivation of a sage perfection circle cultivation. Furthermore, there was also an azure battle armor on Gong Yangqing's body. The grade of the battle armor was unknown, but it was estimated to be at the sage rank at the very least. Ningyu, you have 3 minutes at most. As the demonic human injected yuan qi into the protective barrier, he solemnly said, "The protective barrier will shatter in 3 minutes. At that time, we will have to face the fluctuations from the self-destruction of the blood demon seed, as well as Gong Yangqing's powerful attack." Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an, Zhao Heng, Ziyun, and the rest all fell silent. Just the self-destruction of a blood demon seed was enough for them to suffer. Now, with Gong Yangqing eyeing them covetously, wouldn't that be pushing them into a dead end? Chapter 1879. I'll do my best. Ningyu did not say anything harsh. Instead, he expressed that he would do his best. He had obtained a lot of origin energy from demonic Ming. Originally, Ningyu had planned to devour a part of it first to raise his cultivation to the late-stage sage realm. He would leave the rest of the origin energy behind and continue devouring it after his cultivation was completely stabilized. After all, forcefully advancing while his cultivation was unstable would be very disadvantageous to him in the future. However, the current situation did not allow Ningyu to think too much. Not only did he want to advance, but he also wanted to advance continuously. Even with a large amount of origin energy, Ningyu did not have absolute confidence that he could break through from the mid-stage sage realm to the peak sage realm in 3 minutes. After one's cultivation reached the sage realm, every small advancement was harder than ascending to the heavens. Ordinary martial artists might need a decade or even decades to advance from the mid-stage sage realm to the late-stage sage realm. However, Ningyu wanted to make continuous breakthroughs within 3 minutes. If the martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Square knew what Ningyu was thinking, they would probably laugh their heads off. "I'll guarantee your safety for 3 minutes." Hearing Ningyu's reply, the human demon was expressionless. He turned his head and continued to inject his origin energy into the small protective shield. Ning Lu, who was beside the human demon, was slightly confused. He opened his mouth a few times but chose to close it in the end. When the human demon went out to fight, he gave the human demon a blood demon seed. He thought that the human demon would use it during the intense battle with Gong Yanqing. Who would have thought that not only did the human demon not use the blood demon seed, but he also seemed to have forgotten about it. By the way, you seem to have another blood demon seed? Just as Ning Lu was puzzled, the human demon's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Ning Lu was slightly stunned at first. Then he nodded his head and said, "I do have another blood demon seed." "Senior, do you? I'll give you this blood demon seed too. If Ning can break through to the great perfection sage realm later, give him both blood demon seeds. If he can only break through to the late stage sage realm, give me both blood demon seeds. I'll lure Gong Yanqing away." The human demon interrupted Ning Luo's words with a resolute tone. Boom! Ning Lu was dumbfounded. So this was what the human demon was thinking. The reason he didn't use the blood demon seed was to wait for this moment. When Ning Lu thought about it, he felt that the human demon's decision to not use the blood demon seed was the best decision. After all, Gong Yanqing was wearing armor, and he definitely had a large amount of origin energy. Under such circumstances, even if the human demon used the blood demon seed, he would not be able to severely injure Gong Yanqing. It would even be difficult to hurt Gong Yanqing. Ningyu is different. Once Ningyu advanced to the peak of Sage, with Ningyu's ability and the 2 blood demon seeds, he might be able to severely injure Ram. No, the more he thought about it, the more Ning Lu felt that something was wrong. The peak of the Saint Realm? Ning Lu almost cried out in shock. Right now, Ningyu is only at the middle stage of the Sage Realm. Even if he were to devour the origin energy, it would be hard for him to reach the peak of the Sage Realm. After all, when Ningyu was in the City Lord's mansion, it took him a lot of time to advance from the early stage of the Saint Realm to the middle stage of the Saint Realm. Now that the human demon said that Ningyu could advance from the middle stage of the Saint Realm to the peak of the Sage Realm in 3 minutes, how could Ning Lu believe it? Not to mention Ningyu, even he, the Tree of World, would not be able to do it. Ning Lu had to admit that there had indeed been such abnormal martial artists throughout the ages. However, Ning Lu did not believe that Ningyu could reach such a height. After all, a martial artist who could advance from the middle stage of the Sage Realm to the peak of the Sage Realm in 3 minutes could be ranked at the top even in the ages. Devour. Ningyu turned a deaf ear to Ning Lu's worries. At this moment, all his attention was focused on devouring the origin energy. Fortunately, the origin energy he had obtained from Mo Ming was extremely pure, so he did not need the help of the law of space. Otherwise, let alone 3 minutes. Even if he was given 30 minutes or 300 minutes, he would not be able to advance to the peak of the Sage Realm. Chi. Traces of the origin energy entered Ningyu's body and were constantly being refined under the guidance of the spiritual transformation technique. The origin energy was very pure. The speed at which Ningyu devoured and refined it had reached an extremely terrifying level. Ningyu could clearly feel that his strength was increasing every minute and every second. Originally, Ningyu did not think that he could advance from the middle stage of the Sage Realm to the peak of the Sage Realm in 3 minutes. However, the speed at which his strength was increasing made him gradually change his mind. Perhaps it was not impossible to advance to the peak of the Sage Realm in 3 minutes. Drip, drip. Time passed minute by minute and second by second. The human demon, Ning Lu, the little Kylan, Yi Jiansong, and the others were doing their best to maintain the stability of the small protective shield. Gong Yanqing, on the other hand, was constantly attacking the small protective shield. Each of Gong Yanqing's attacks was equivalent to an all-out attack from a martial artist in the great perfection of the Sage Realm. Under his attacks, the small protective shield was on the verge of collapse, and it looked like it was about to break. "Let's see how long this turtle shell of yours can last," Gong Yanqing said angrily. At this moment, Gong Yanqing was very angry. He originally thought that he would be able to break the small protective shield in a few moves. Who would have thought that a full minute and a half had passed since he attacked? The small protective shield looked like it was about to break, but it stabilized at the crucial moment every time. This situation had already made Gong Yangqing completely crazy. He was a martial artist in the great perfection of the Sage Realm and a third-grade Emperor-level alchemist. If he couldn't even break this small protective shield, wouldn't he be a laughingstock? Boom! However, just when Gong Yangqing was about to attack again, a terrifying aura suddenly emitted from Ningyu's body and soared into the sky. What? This aura not only caused many martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Square to exclaim, but even Gong Yangqing could not help but stop attacking. Has Ningyu advanced to the peak of the Sage Realm? He should be at the peak of the Sage Realm. His aura is no weaker than City Lord Yi. Nonsense. Ningyu's aura is no weaker than City Lord Yi Jiansong's. According to my estimation, his cultivation should be in the great perfection of the Sage Realm. You're all wrong. Ningyu's only advanced to the late stage of the Sage Realm. Wow. When the last martial artist's words fell, the martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Square were in an uproar. Late stage of the Sage Realm? A late-stage sage could release an aura that was close to the great perfection of the Sage Realm? Was he still human? Something's wrong. Look, in the Alchemy Emperor Square, a martial artist seemed to have noticed something unusual. He hurriedly stretched out his hand and pointed at Ningyu. Following the direction of the martial artist's hand, all the martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Square looked at Ningyu. Hiss! They really did not know if they did not look, but they were shocked when they saw it. Ningyu's aura was still rising. Chapter 1880. It was no wonder that Wu Patian was so bitter. It took him 10 years to advance from the late stage of the Sage Realm to the peak stage of the Sage Realm. However, even after 10 years, he was still an exceptional genius in the martial domain. His martial talent was enough to rank in the top 3. He advanced from the late stage of the Sage Realm to the peak stage of the Sage Realm in 10 years. His martial talent could rank in the top 3 in the martial domain and top 10 in the Celestial Spirit Realm. If Ningyu could advance to the peak stage of the Sage Realm in a few minutes, wouldn't that mean that his talent could rank first in the Celestial Spirit Realm? The more Wu Patian thought about it, the more terrified he felt. You want to break through in front of me? I think you've lost your mind. Gong Yangqing's face was extremely gloomy. Although he could use the origin energy to release the aura of a sage in the Great Perfection Realm and release the battle power of a sage in the Great Perfection Realm. However, he could see that the aura exuded by Ningyu was becoming more and more terrifying. It was so terrifying that it was infinitely close to his. As long as Ningyu could successfully advance to the peak stage of the Sage Realm, the vitality in Ningyu's body would be even more terrifying than his. What did that mean? The vitality in the peak stage of the Sage Realm was even more terrifying than that of a sage in the Great Perfection Realm. It was extremely rare to reach this level in history. Open. Although Gong Yangqing was furious, he did not lose his rationality. He waved his hands continuously and continuously attacked the small protective shield. In order to break the small protective shield in advance, Gong Yangqing did not hesitate to burn his essence blood to increase his attack power. Crack, 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 crack. Originally, the small protective shield could last for 3 minutes with the human demon and the others maintaining it. But now it was already a great fortune to be able to last for 2.5 minutes, let alone 3 minutes. From the time Gong Yangqing attacked the small protective shield until now, 1.5 minutes had passed. In other words, there was only 1 minute left for Ningyu. Ning Lu, give me the 2 blood demon seeds. Human Demon used all his strength to maintain the stability of the small protective shield as he said to Ning Lu, when the protective shield is broken, I will use 2 blood demon seeds to force Gong Yangqing to retreat. All you have to do is take Ningyu and leave as soon as possible. Go as far as you can. Senior. Ning Lu and the others' expressions changed. Even the demonic human had said so. Didn't that mean that there was no hope? Listen to me. The human demon's expression was cold as he said in a low voice, everyone that can leave counts. Don't let my efforts go to waste. Ning Lu and the others could only choose to be silent. Drip. Drip, drip. Time continued to elapse. The entire Alchemy Emperor Plaza quietened down. The anger was getting more and more stifling. Everyone knew that the small protective shield wouldn't last much longer. Once the small protective shield was broken, Ning Yu and the others, who were inside the protective shield, would have to face the attacks of Gong Yanqing. However, relatively speaking, the many cultivators in the Pill's Sovereign Plaza, who were bitterly enduring, were still very excited. This was because once Gong Yanqing engaged in a life-and-death battle with the human devil, he would inevitably neglect them. At that time, it would be the best time for them to escape. I am the king open. Not long after, Gong Yanqing's pupils abruptly turned green, and 2 rays of green light shot out from his pupils. The speed of the cold light was so fast that it almost reached the small protective shield in an instant. Gotcha! Facing the attack of the cold light, the small protective shield didn't even last for a second before it shattered with a loud bang. Go! The moment the small protective shield shattered, the human demon suddenly pushed Ning Lu and the others away. At the same time, he held 2 blood devil seeds in his hands and rushed towards Gong Yanqing. Not good. The moment the human demon rushed out, Gong Yanqing realized that something was wrong. He hurriedly retreated, wanting to avoid the human demon's attack. However, at this time, it was obviously too late for him to escape. Explode. The human demon held a blood devil seed in one hand, and with a light shout, the blood devil seed suddenly exploded. Damn it! Why are there 2 more blood devil seeds exploding? Everyone, don't panic. Continue to maintain the protective shield. Don't let them break. This time, there are only 2 blood devil seeds. It should be easy to hold on. The explosion of the 2 blood devil seeds instantly caused chaos in the Pill's Sovereign Plaza. Fortunately, Wu Patian and War God Crane came out to maintain order and did their best to stabilize the chaos. Otherwise, the explosion of the 2 blood devil seeds was enough to break the protective shield and attack all of them. Looking carefully, when the human demon detonated the blood devil seeds, he intentionally avoided Ning Lu and the others. Although the explosion of the blood devil seeds was powerful, it did not attack Ning Lu and the others. Instead, it swept past them. Go! Seeing that the human demon triggered the explosion of the blood devil seeds, wanted to take Gong Yanqing down with him, Ning Lu and Meng Chang'an's eyes widened. Their faces were filled with grief and indignation. Grief and indignation were grief and indignation, but they would not forget the human demon's instructions. Next, Meng Chang'an grabbed Ning Yu, Yi Jiansong, and Zhao Heng brought Old Man Tianji and the others and quickly flew into the distance. Rumble. However, Meng Chang'an and the others had just flown a few steps when they discovered something that made them frightened. Facing the explosion of the blood devil seeds, Gong Yanqing was only slightly shocked for a moment. He quickly calmed down, and his eyes once again shot out several green cold rays. These cold lights revolved around Gong Yanqing's body and easily blocked the explosion of the 2 blood demon seeds. Gotcha! 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 Gong Yanqing was fine, so he naturally became the human demon. Although the human demon was strong, he was in the center of the explosion of the 2 blood devil seeds. His entire body was blasted beyond recognition, and even several of his bones were broken. You want to fight me? You're still too inexperienced. Seeing the human demon's miserable state, the corner of Gong Yanqing's mouth curled up. He said sinisterly, "You're very strong. Even in the higher planes, you're one of the top experts. However, it's very unfortunate that you met me. Everyone who met me did not have a good ending. You're no exception. Oof. If you didn't have the power source, how could you be my opponent?" The human demon stood up with difficulty and snorted coldly. At this time, the human demon's body emitted crackling sounds. Clearly, it was the sound of bones healing. You actually have such a powerful, self-healing ability. Seeing the human demon's state, Gong Yanqing's mouth opened slightly and he exclaimed. But very quickly, Gong Yanqing's exclamation turned into ecstasy. He said, "Ha ha, I didn't expect your physique to be so special. I originally wanted to refine you into a puppet, but now it seems that refining you into a puppet is a complete waste of God's gift. I'm going to take over your body." As soon as the word "you" fell, Gong Yangqing's figure flickered, turning into an afterimage as he flew towards the human demon. The human demon revealed a resolute expression as he looked at the unceasingly flying over to him. Self-destruct. At this moment, the human demon had the thought of self-destructing in his heart. After making his decision, the human demon turned to look at Ningyu and the rest. He wanted to make sure that Ningyu and the rest had not gone far. He didn't know if he didn't look, but when he did, he jumped in fright. The human demon was shocked to find that Ningyu had also turned into an afterimage as he rushed towards him. Chapter 1881. Sage Peak. The human demon's mouth was slightly agape, and his face was filled with shock. In just 2.5 minutes, Ningyu had actually advanced from Sage Middle Stage to Sage Peak. What surprised the human demon the most was not Ningyu's cultivation, but the aura that Ningyu was emitting. Ningyu's aura was not any weaker than Gong Yangqing's. One had to know that Gong Yangqing had relied on the origin energy to raise his cultivation to Sage Peak. Ningyu was able to emit the aura of a perfected saint even though he was only at the peak of the saint realm. Such terrifying martial talent really surprised the human demon. Swoosh! Swoosh! It seemed like the human demon had thought a lot, but it was only for a moment. In an instant, Gong Yangqing and Ningyu arrived in front of the human demon at the same time and entered his head. Everyone's mouth was slightly agape, and their faces were filled with disbelief. What had happened? Why was the human demon standing there with his mouth slightly agape? Gong Yangqing wants to possess the human demon. Wu Patian and the rest reacted instantly. Gong Yangqing wanted to possess the human demon, and Ningyu had advanced to Sage Peak. Either of these two things was enough to cause a sensation. Should we? Wu Potion's face was cold as he reached out to touch his neck and said to the Divine War Crane, "Don't act rashly." The Divine War Crane shook his head and said, "Our top priority is to withstand the aftermath of the Blood Demon Seed's explosion. We'll talk about the rest later." "All right." Wu Patian took a deep breath and said helplessly, the aftermath of the Blood Demon Seed's explosion was still there. If they wanted to deal with Gong Yangqing, they had to pass through the area where the Blood Demon Seed exploded. Originally, the aftermath of the 4 Blood Demon Seeds was about to dissipate, but who would have thought that the human demon would detonate 2 more Blood Demon Seeds? What angered them the most was that the detonation of the Blood Demon Seeds did not affect Yi Jiansong and the rest at all. At this moment, the area where Yi Jiansong and the rest were was extremely safe, as if nothing had happened. Even the aftermath of the self-detonation of the 4 Blood Demon Seeds had been transferred to them. Although Wu Patian and the others were furious, there was nothing they could do. No one wanted to touch Yi Jiansong's brows at this time. If he angered Yi Jiansong and the others and caused them to attack the protective shield together with the aftermath of the Blood Demon Seed's explosion, he would be the one to suffer in the end. Cough, cough. I'll go help Ningyu and Senior Human Demon. Ning Lu coughed dryly in midair and spoke in a low voice. I'll go. At this time, the little Qilin that hadn't spoken for a long time spoke up. Your body's current condition can no longer support you to continue fighting, but the Qilin blood essence in my body can help Ningyu and the human demon. All right. Ning Lu thought about it and finally agreed to little Qilin's decision. Although he was a world tree, his Yuan Qi had been depleted after the consecutive battles. In fact, even his life force was getting weaker and weaker. Once his vitality completely disappeared, he would disappear from the world. Moreover, what little Qilin said wasn't without reason. Even if he went there, he wouldn't be of much help. At the very least, the little Qilin could give Ningyu and the human devil some Qilin blood. Swoosh! Little Qilin leaped up and turned into an afterimage. In an instant, it arrived in front of the human devil and entered his body. Not long after little Qilin entered the human devil's body, the aftermath of the Blood Demon Seed's explosion finally stabilized. Although the aftermath hadn't completely disappeared, it wasn't enough to harm a Sage Realm martial artist. Swish, swish, swish. Inside the Alchemy Emperor Plaza, Wu Patian, Zhan Shun, and other peak sage martial artists flew into the air and surrounded Yi Jiansong and the others. What is the meaning of this? Yi Jiansong's face was cold as he said in a low voice, "The culprit is Gong Yanqing. Instead of dealing with Gong Yanqing, you came to surround us. What are your intentions?" "Clown, what right do you have to speak here?" A martial artist suddenly flew out from Wu Potion's side. This martial artist emitted a black mist. It was Li Weilong from the Sacred Heaven sect. Back at the City Lord's residence, because of the human devil, even if Ning Yu killed a few Sacred Heaven sect martial artists, Li Weilong couldn't do anything. Now that the human devil had been possessed by Gong Yanqing, it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. At this time, he naturally had to jump out and cause trouble for Yi Jiansong and the others. In Li Weilong's opinion, other than Meng Chang'an and Ning Lu, the rest could be killed. After all, leaving 2 as hostages was enough. "If you want to fight, let's fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Yi Jiansong clenched his fists tightly as his aura continued to rise. As the City Lord of the Alchemy Emperor's City, how could Yi Jiansong not have a trump card? When he was fighting with Elder Ji from the Sacred Heaven sect, he didn't use his trump card. Now that it was a matter of life and death, how could he hold back? "Oh, not bad. You can actually raise your aura to the peak of the Sage Peak, infinitely close to the Sage Great Perfection Realm." Li Weilong crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Yi Jiansong with interest. He said, "However, even if you raise your aura to the Sage Great Perfection Realm, it's useless, because the difference between you and me is like a grain of rice and the moon." As Li Weilong's voice fell, his aura suddenly increased. In a short period of time, Li Weilong's aura had risen from the peak of the Sage Great Perfection Realm. "You don't have the power of origin. How can you raise your aura to the Sage Great Perfection Realm?" Yi Jiansong was terrified. Without the power of origin, it was impossible to raise one's cultivation to the Sage Great Perfection Realm. This was the iron rule of the Celestial Spirit Realm. Now that Li Weilong broke this iron rule in front of him, how could he not be shocked? Those from the lower planes are indeed ants. How short-sighted, Li Weilong said disdainfully. Using the power of origin, one could raise one's cultivation to the Sage Great Perfection Realm and avoid the detection of the plane barrier. Similarly, one could use treasures to deceive everyone. Hearing Li Weilong's words, not only did Yi Jiansong's face turn pale, but even Wu Patian and the war god Crane looked terrible. Li Weilong said that those from the lower planes were ants. Didn't that mean they were ants too? If they weren't afraid of Li Weilong's strength, they would have killed him long ago. As the lord of a region, they still had their pride. "The 2 of you, please help City Lord Yi and the others this time. I'll definitely thank you when I come out." At this moment, a voice suddenly rang in Wu Patian and the war god Crane's ears. Hearing this, Wu Patian and the war god Crane immediately looked at the demon in the distance, as if they had seen a ghost. They could hear it very clearly. The voice in their ears came from the direction of the human devil. Chapter 1882. Should we help? Wu Patian and the war god Crane were shocked, and they even started to discuss whether they should help. Actually, the 2 of them didn't have any grudges with Ningyu. They came to Alchemy Emperor City for Gong Yanqing's power source. If it was before, they definitely wouldn't choose to cooperate with Ningyu. After all, they were confident in their own strength and thought they could fight Gong Yanqing head-on. But after a few battles, they realized that Gong Yanqing was unfathomable. In terms of strength, he should be the strongest in this area. Even the human demon wasn't his match. Under such circumstances, it was the best choice to form an alliance. Coincidentally, Ningyu made a request for cooperation and even promised benefits. The 2 of them naturally had to consider it carefully. Helping them means going against Li Weilong and the Sacred Heaven sect of the Ice region. The Sacred Heaven sect is the overlord of the Ice region, and Li Weilong is also from higher plane. The 2 of us might not be able to stop him. Li Weilong's battle strength is at most a little stronger than ours. How can we not stop him if we work together? Wu Patian said proudly. He was afraid of Gong Yangqing and the human demon, but not Li Weilong. As the overlord of the martial region, Wu Patian had many trump cards. All right, let's help Ningyu. After a moment of silence, the war god Crane nodded. The martial region and the war god region were different from the other big regions. For example, the ice region had experts from higher planes descend on the Sacred Heaven sect. The Sky Demon region had experts like Gong Yangqing descend on the Alchemy Union. The Fire region also had experts descend. In other words, in the entire Celestial Spirit region, only the Martial region and the War God region didn't have absolute experts descend from higher planes. After these high-level existences' powerhouses descended, they immediately consolidated their forces and firmly controlled a large region. If it weren't for Wu Patian and the War God region, the other big regions would have already taken over the Martial region and the War God region. Swish! Swish! Since they had decided to help, the War God Crane and Wu Patian stepped on the ground and immediately dashed out. Come here, kneel in front of me, and kowtow a few times. I can consider letting you be my dog. Li Weilong looked down at Yi Jiansong, his terrifying aura pressing down on him. How could Meng Chang'an and the others allow Yi Jiansong to face Li Weilong alone? The aura within their bodies surged out crazily, and together with Yi Jiansong's aura, they struggled to hold on. Although they had the help of Meng Chang'an and Zhao Heng, the aura that Li Weilong emitted was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that in just an instant, they were sent flying. Pu-pu-pu. Continuously spurting out fresh blood, Meng Chang'an, Zhao Heng, and the rest's faces were ashen, drained of all color. If worst comes to worst, we'll fight to the death. Yi Jiansong's eyes were filled with determination. He waved his hands continuously, and his body gradually expanded. You want to self-destruct? Seeing Yi Jiansong's actions, the corners of Li Weilong's lips curled up slightly. He said in disdain, in front of me, you don't even have the right to self-destruct. In the heavens and earth, only I am supreme. Li Weilong opened his mouth and spat out a dark green light. This cold light was extremely fast, and as it rubbed against the air, it produced a sizzling sound. Under the attack of the dark green light, Yi Jiansong's swollen body gradually returned to normal. Yi Jiansong was shocked. Just like what Li Weilong said, he couldn't even self-destruct. In front of Li Weilong, he didn't even have the right to self-destruct. Die! As if he had played enough, Li Weilong chased after Yi Jiansong, and his right hand slapped Yi Jiansong's head. Li Weilong's attack was extremely powerful. If Yi Jiansong was unlucky enough to be hit, his head would probably explode. However, Yi Jiansong was lucky. Seeing that Li Weilong's fist was about to land on Yi Jiansong's body, Wu Patian and War God Crane suddenly acted and pulled Yi Jiansong over. Moreover, Wu Patian and War God Crane threw out a punch at the same time and collided with Li Weilong's fist. Crack! 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 The three fists collided, and three crisp sounds were heard. Then, the three figures retreated rapidly. Judging from the distance they retreated, the two of them were evenly matched in strength. However, everyone knew that Li Weilong had the upper hand, even though they seemed to be evenly matched. After all, he was fighting against Wu Patian and War God Crane, who were both at the peak of the Sage Realm. What's the meaning of this? Li Weilong waved his hand and narrowed his eyes. Do you want to go against the Sacred Heaven sect for that trash? Someone asked me for help, so I have to help. Wu Potion's expression was solemn. Do me a favor and let them go. Do you a favor? Li Weilong's lips curled up slightly. He then changed the topic and said coldly, who do you think you are to make me do you a favor? What if I join in? War God Crane took a step forward and stood next to Wu Patian. Not enough. Li Weilong shook his head. This is the Alchemy Emperor's city, not the Sacred Heaven sect that you're from. Wu Potion's face was pale as he scolded. He and War God Crane attacked together, but Li Weilong didn't care at all. Did he think they were easy to bully? Forget it. Li Weilong rolled his eyes and thought of something. He then waved his hand and said, I'm in a good mood today. I don't want to kill anyone for now. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Weilong's body suddenly became illusory and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Watch out! Wu Patian realized something was wrong as soon as Li Weilong disappeared. He immediately unleashed the vital qi in his body and formed a vital qi shield around his heart. Crack! As expected, Wu Potion's sixth sense was accurate. Li Weilong suddenly appeared in front of him and punched at his heart. Luckily, he was prepared. Otherwise, Li Weilong's punch alone was enough to turn him into a retard. Ha ha, you're lucky. Li Weilong didn't continue attacking after his attack failed. Instead, he turned into a shadow and flew out of the Alchemy Emperor City. Seeing Li Weilong leave, Wu Patian and War God Crane didn't let their guard down. Only when they were sure that Li Weilong had left did their taut nerves relax a little. To be honest, they were worried that Li Weilong would go all out. In that instant, the powerful combat power that Li Weilong had displayed was infinitely close to the Sage Great Perfection realm. Wu Patian and War God Crane didn't want to use their trump cards here. After all, the battle between Gong Yangqing and the human demon on the other side had yet to be decided. If Ningyu and the human demon won, everyone would be happy. The two of them protected Yi Jiansong and could even get some origin energy from Ningyu and the human demon. But if Ningyu and the human demon failed, the two of them would have to face Gong Yangqing. Chapter 1883. At the same time, in Human Demon's mind, three miniaturized martial artists were confronting each other. Among them, one was Gong Yangqing, and the other was Human Demon and Ningyu. Gong Yangqing put his hands behind his back and said proudly, "Ningyu, I think you are a good seedling. If you are willing to join me, I can directly contact the higher-ups of Wuhong Cave and send you to the Purgatory Field to be nurtured. If you are willing to join me and be my dog, I can consider letting you live." Ningyu shrugged and said, "Humph." Gong Yangqing snorted coldly from his nose. The reason why Gong Yangqing did not forcibly take over the body was because of the variable, Ningyu. Originally, Human Demon, who was seriously injured, would not be able to stop him. He could easily take over Human Demon's body. However, Ningyu suddenly entered Human Demon's mind, and his cultivation had advanced to the peak of Sage. Gong Yangqing was very self-aware. Even if he was fast enough, it would take half an hour or even an hour. During this hour, how could Ningyu watch coldly? Once Ningyu made a move, it would be very difficult for him to take over Human Demon's body. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Gong Yangqing said, "If you join me, I can give you a lot of origin energy." As he spoke, Gong Yangqing took out a jade bottle, which was filled with origin energy. Seeing the origin energy that Gong Yangqing took out, Ningyu's pupils could not help but shrink. With so much origin energy, if he was given it, he could even completely stabilize his cultivation before breaking through to the Sage Great Circle. Although Ningyu had advanced from the Sage Middle Stage to the Sage Peak, it was only temporary. Strictly speaking, Ningyu's current cultivation was not at the Sage Peak, but the Sage Late Stage. He was only a thin line away from the Sage Peak. Because Ningyu's origin energy was very vigorous, not inferior to a Sage Great Circle martial artist, everyone thought that he had advanced to the Sage Peak. At first, even Ningyu was deceived. However, as time passed, Ningyu realized that he was wrong. Very wrong. He was still a distance away from the peak of the Sage realm. "Even if I kill you, I will still be able to obtain the origin energy." Ningyu's tone was indifferent as he spoke. Although Ningyu really wanted the origin energy, he would not betray the human devil. Moreover, even if he betrayed the human devil, Gong Yangqing would never give him the source energy. Ningyu was very clear about Gong Yangqing's character. Ha ha ha. Gong Yangqing seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed maniacally. "If not for the human demon possession, I would have killed you all long ago. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? You can try." Ningyu stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "All right, I'll show you what a soul attack is." Gong Yangqing's eyes suddenly widened. Suddenly, a cold soul light shot out from his eyes. This cold soul light did not have any shape at first, but as it moved forward, it gradually turned into the shape of a flying sword. Soul Flying Sword. Gong Yangqing was a third-grade Emperor-level alchemist. The strength of his soul force had reached the third-grade Emperor level. However, Ningyu's soul force was only at the peak of the 9th grade. How could he be Gong Yangqing's opponent? Pucci. Therefore, in just an instant, Ningyu was sent flying by the Soul Flying Sword. He spat out a big mouthful of blood. Peak of the 9th grade. Not bad, not bad. Devouring your soul force will be of some help to me. An arc rose from the corner of Gong Yangqing's mouth. Shortly after, another spiritual flying sword shot out from his eyes and attacked Ningyu from another direction. Ningyu could not withstand one soul flying sword, let alone two. Under the joint attack of the two soul flying swords, Ningyu kept on retreating. Human demon, you'd better open your mind and let me take over your body. This way, Ningyu will suffer less. Gong Yangqing crossed his arms and said to the human demon, "If you piss me off, I'll kill both of you. You can't bear it because my physique is very good? 1 in a million." The human demon's face was expressionless. There was no emotion on his face. At this time, the human demon moved and joined the battle. With the addition of the human demon, Ningyu immediately felt the pressure on him lessen. Although he was still unable to repel Gong Yangqing's 2 strands of spiritual soul force, the 2 strands of spiritual soul force were unable to injure Ningyu. What should I do? Gong Yangqing clenched his fists. He was so angry that his nostrils were fuming. In order to take over the human demon, he had even abandoned Emo Min, and the 6-horned monster. If he succeeded, it would be fine. But if he failed, all his efforts would be in vain. With me as the guide, heaven and earth are boundless. Forcefully take over. After another minute, Gong Yangqing suddenly waved his hands and slammed them against his chest. Rumble. In an instant, Gong Yangqing's body exploded, leaving behind only a soul force, breaking down and building, facing death and coming back to life. In order to take over the human demon's body, Gong Yangqing was going all out. His body had been destroyed. Right now, the only option was to take over the human demon's body. Not good. Seeing Gong Yangqing not hesitate to self-destruct, Ningyu and the human demon's hearts thumped. They knew that things were not going well. Human demon, help me break through my limits. However, Ningyu reacted quickly. He did not care about being hit by the soul flying swords. He shouted at the human demon, "Inject all your yuan qi into my body." Whoosh! Without any hesitation, the human demon decisively injected all his yuan qi into Ningyu's body. As the yuan qi in his body increased, Ningyu's aura became stronger. Bang! In virtually an instant, a muffled sound suddenly sounded out in Ningyu's mind. At this time, a horrifying to the extreme yuan qi undulation spread out in all directions with Ningyu as the center. What? The yuan qi in Ningyu's body skyrocketed. Truly advancing to peak sage realm was not the reason why Gong Yangqing was shocked. The reason why Gong Yangqing was shocked was that he discovered that the yuan qi emitting out from Ningyu's body actually resisted his soul force. This discovery truly made Gong Yangqing's expression change drastically. One had to know that his physical body had already exploded. Currently, only his soul force was left. Once he was unable to take over the human demon's body, he would fall into a situation of eternal damnation. "Break for me!" In a moment of desperation, Gong Yangqing shouted and started burning his soul force. Crack! 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 Following the combustion of Gong Yangqing's soul, the yuan qi that Ningyu displayed was actually like clay chickens and pottery dogs, completely collapsing. Haha! Clay chickens and pottery dogs, all die for me. Gong Yangqing was overjoyed. Although he burned some of his soul force, he ultimately won. The human demon did not have yuan qi in his body. Ningyu retreated step by step. He became the biggest winner. Is that so? Chapter 1884. Who is it? The words that entered his ears caused Gong Yangqing's expression to change. He gave up on Ningyu and sent his powerful soul force forward. Gong Yangqing wasn't an idiot. On the contrary, he was very smart. Although Ningyu and the human demon were no longer a threat to him, he didn't have the slightest intention of letting his guard down. To him, the most important thing was to dig out the other martial artist hidden in the human demon's mind. Otherwise, if that martial artist caused trouble while he was possessing the human demon, he might fail at the last step. Swish! Gong Yangqing's soul force had reached the third grade emperor level, and his suppression was extremely powerful. Almost at the same time his soul power was unleashed, a figure quickly appeared. Qilin. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of him, Gong Yangqing was stunned at first, then ecstasy appeared on his face. Originally, he was worried that after possessing the human demon, there would be a period of weakness, but the appearance of the Qilin completely dispelled his worries. Once he devoured the Qilin and used the powerful fusion ability of the Qilin blood, he could even perfectly pass the period of weakness. Ha ha ha! I've really worn out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. Thinking of this, Gong Yangqing threw his head back and laughed maniacally. No period of weakness, a powerful physique, and a terrifying soul force. Gong Yangqing could almost imagine that he would become one of the strongest people in the celestial spirit realm. Don't you think it's a little too early to think about this? The little Qilin wasn't afraid of Gong Yangqing at all. It took a step forward and displayed its terrifying Qilin pressure, facing Gong Yangqing's soul force pressure head-on. Sizzle. The two terrifying pressures collided, producing a sizzling sound. It's useless. If your cultivation was at the peak of the sage realm, I might lose. But your cultivation is only at the middle stage of the sage realm. What do you have to fight me? The corner of Gong Yangqing's mouth curled up, and he said sinisterly, "Today, I'll have braised Qilin meat." It could be seen, although the Qilin pressure displayed by the little Qilin was strong, compared to Gong Yangqing's soul force, it was a whole level lower. The two pressures collided in the human demon's mind, and the pressure displayed by the little Qilin seemed to be defeated bit by bit, unable to withstand a single blow. Under such circumstances, Gong Yangqing was naturally very excited, and he even let out a mocking sound. The best part is yet to come. Faced with Gong Yangqing's mockery and the Qilin's pressure, the little Qilin behaved very calmly. He calmly retreated to the side of Ningyu and the human demon, then quickly waved his hands. As the little Qilin waved its hands, its aura skyrocketed at a terrifying speed. Not good. Sensing the strengthening of the little Qilin's aura, Gong Yangqing's expression darkened to the extreme as he cried out in alarm. Originally, his soul pressure had the upper hand, and he was only one step away from completely crushing the Qilin's pressure. But now, the scales of victory were slowly tilting towards little Qilin. He didn't know what secret technique the little Qilin had used, but the Qilin pressure it had unleashed actually made his heart palpitate. Could it be that he's pretending to be weak? His real cultivation has long surpassed the great perfection saint? Gong Yangqing was terrified. The Qilin pressure displayed by the little Qilin had already surpassed his understanding. He had only felt such a strong sense of oppression from warriors who had surpassed the sage level. How could he not be shocked that the little Qilin could display such a terrifying pressure with the cultivation of a sage intermediate stage? Gong Yangqing was indeed an expert from a higher plane of existence. Even though he was shocked, he didn't panic. At this time, he made a prompt decision and directly burned his soul power, wanting to resist the overwhelming Qilin pressure. However, it was obviously too late for Gong Yangqing to burn his soul power now. Just as he ignited his soul power with his front foot, an overwhelming Qilin pressure pressed down on him from behind. Being suppressed by the terrifying Qilin pressure, Gong Yangqing spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and his aura dropped rapidly. "You will all die a horrible death." Gong Yangqing's eyes were about to crack, and he was extremely furious. Seeing that he was about to succeed, who would have thought that a little Qilin would suddenly appear? It was fine if a little Qilin appeared, but this little Qilin could erupt with a destructive Qilin pressure. In Gong Yanqing's opinion, as long as the Qilin pressure could be weakened, he would definitely win. However, it was useless to say anything now. Under the terrifying Qilin pressure, Gong Yanqing could only struggle bitterly. Huff! Seeing Gong Yanqing's aura getting weaker and weaker, Ning Yu and the human devil heaved a sigh of relief at the same time, secretly thinking that it was a close shave. Luckily, they let the little Qilin hide in the human devil's body and did not make a move. Otherwise, they would definitely be doomed today. Actually, when Ning Yu and Gong Yanqing were facing off, the little Qilin already entered the human devil's body. The reason why the little Qilin hid and did not make a move was that the little Qilin was gambling. It was gambling that Gong Yanqing would abandon his fleshy body. If Gong Yanqing did not abandon his fleshy body, even if the little Qilin displayed the horrifying Qilin pressure, it was absolutely impossible to defeat Gong Yanqing. Cool work. Seeing that Gong Yanqing basically lost his combat strength, the little Qilin suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Its face became somewhat pale. In order to deal with Gong Yanqing, Ning Yu, the little Qilin, and the human devil, the three of them all suffered varying degrees of injuries. And among the three of them, the little Qilin and the human devil's injuries were the heaviest. Gong Yanqing, hand over your source power. I can preserve your soul power and help you find someone to possess in the future. The battle was won. Next, it was naturally time to divide the spoils of war. Ning Yu's footsteps moved, and he came in front of the feeble Gong Yanqing and said in a solemn voice, "If you're disobedient, then what awaits you can only be death. You want the origin energy? Even if I destroy it, I also won't, Gong Yanqing's eyes revealed a hint of viciousness as he said coldly. However, the malicious words in Gong Yanqing's mouth had just said halfway when he let out a miserable squeal like a pig being butchered. Very clearly, Ning Yu made a move. Dealing with the weakened state Gong Yanqing, Ning Yu occupied an overwhelming advantage. Why you? To actually want to devour my soul power. At this instant, Gong Yanqing finally revealed a terrified expression. Not only did Ning Yu want to kill him, but he even wanted to devour his remaining soul power. Don't look at how Gong Yanqing said that he wanted to perish together. In reality, that was not the case. He still wanted to live. According to his thinking, it was to burn a portion of source power to divert Ning Yu and the others' attention, then wait for an opportunity to escape. Now, Ning Yu directly made a move and did not give him the slightest chance. The strength of your soul power is third-grade monarch rank. After devouring your soul power, my soul power should be able to advance to first-grade monarch rank. The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up slightly. Then he opened his mouth wide and swallowed Gong Yanqing's soul power into his mouth on the spot. Clank! Chapter 1885. Human Demon, Little Qilin, you guys split this origin energy. I'll go and devour Gomiangqing's soul power first. Ning Yu casually threw the jade bottle to the human demon and Little Qilin. He then sat down cross-legged and began refining Gomiangqing's soul power. Swoosh! After receiving the jade bottle from Ning Yu, the human demon and Little Qilin looked at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. Origin energy was the most precious thing in the celestial spirit realm. Ning Yu had actually thrown it to them without even looking at it. His boldness alone was enough to make them look at him in a new light. One must know that there was a lot of origin energy in the jade bottle. If Ning Yu could devour all of it, he could even directly break through to the Sage Great Circle. There was a huge difference between a Sage Peak and a Sage Great Circle. It was not something that could be made up with energy. To be precise, a Sage Peak was still within the realm of sages. A Sage Great Circle belonged to another realm. It was half a step into human immortal. Above sages was human immortal. A Sage Great Circle should be half a step into human immortal. That was why people said that a Sage Great Circle and a Sage Peak were two different concepts. If a Sage Peak could defeat a Sage Great Circle, everyone would be shocked. Let's devour and refine some origin energy first. At the very least, we need to recover our strength to our peak. The human demon thought for a moment. Then he split some origin energy from the jade bottle and started devouring it. The human demon's injuries were very serious. It would probably take him a few months to recover with his own physical recovery ability. Now that the Alchemy Emperor's square was in chaos, he did not have much time left. Seeing that the human demon had devoured a quarter of the origin energy, little Qilin did not take more. It also devoured a quarter of the origin energy. Chi. Although little Qilin and the human demon's speed of devouring origin energy was not as fast as Ningyu's, it was still very fast. Time passed. About half an hour later, the two of them had devoured all the origin energy. At the same time, their cultivation had also recovered to its peak. Ningyu has not finished devouring Gomiang Qing's soul power. Little Qilin and the human demon were surprised to see Ningyu still sitting cross-legged. After all, the devouring power that Ningyu displayed earlier was simply too terrifying. It was so terrifying that it made one's hair stand on end. According to the human devil and little Qilin's thoughts, Ningyu should have already finished devouring Gong Yanqing's soul force in half an hour. Boom! At this moment, Ningyu's eyes sprang open as a terrifying soul force was emitted from his body. Royal stage. Sensing the fluctuations of Ningyu's soul force, the human devil and the little Qilin revealed excited expressions. Emperor level. Royal level stage. Ning Royal Flame had in, and Flame, Emperor Flame, and Demon. With it, in other words, with Ningyu's current strength, he wouldn't lose to a complete Saint Realm expert. He might even have an advantage. There's still so much origin energy left. The human demon and little Qilin were happy that Ningyu's soul power had increased. But at the same time, they threw the rest of the origin energy to Ningyu. Why is there so much left? Looking at the origin energy in the jade bottle, Ningyu said doubtfully, "My cultivation has reached a bottleneck. I won't be able to break through to the great perfection Saint Realm in a short time. I'll leave this origin energy for you to use." We don't need it. The human demon and little Qilin shook their heads at the same time. You can have it. It's more useful than us. All right. Ningyu didn't argue. The reason why it took him so long to devour Gomiang Qing's soul power wasn't because his speed had slowed down, but because he was integrating Gomiang Qing's memories. Devouring memories had always been slower than devouring soul power in Yuan Qi. From Gomiang Qing's memories, Ningyu roughly understood the location of the origin energy. Compared to the origin energy there, the origin energy in the jade bottle could only be described as a hair from 9 oxen. We'll go out first. Ningyu kept the origin energy and left the human demon's body with the little Qilin. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu and the little Qilin left the human demon's body, they saw a fist coming straight at them. Normally, the target of the fist should be the human demon. However, Ningyu and the little Qilin were in front of the human demon, so the fist looked like it was aimed at their heads. In this crisis, Ningyu clenched his right hand into a fist and collided with the incoming fist. Bang! The two fists collided and a crisp sound rang out. Then, the two figures retreated rapidly. How is this possible? While retreating, Li Weilong looked like he had seen a ghost. His face was full of shock. He didn't expect that something that was in the bag would suddenly change. At this moment, Li Weilong was both shocked and angry. At first, he wanted to kill Yi Jiansong and the others, but he was stopped by Wu Patian and the Divine War Crane. At that time, he chose to compromise and pretended to leave, but in reality, he was hiding in the void, waiting for an opportunity to strike. He waited for a few hours until he was sure that Wu Patian and the Divine War Crane had let their guard down. Then he suddenly made his move, wanting to catch them off guard. Who would have thought that he would be able to fool Wu Patian and the Divine War Crane? But at the last moment, he was stopped by Ningyu. "How can you stop me?" Li Weilong's face was ashen. He admitted that Ningyu's martial arts talent was strong, but no matter how strong his martial arts talent was, he didn't think that Ningyu could compete with him. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. The strength that Ningyu had displayed just now was enough to compete with him. Ningyu glanced at Li Weilong indifferently. Then his figure flashed and flew toward Ning Lu. Ning Lu's situation was terrible, and Ningyu didn't have time to fight with Li Weilong. To him, the most important thing was to give Ning Lu the origin force. Ningyu knew very well that as long as Ning Lu devoured the remaining origin force, Ning Lu would be able to recover 100%. He might even benefit from the disaster and advance to the middle stage of the Sage Realm. "You're courting death." Seeing that Ningyu was ignoring him, Li Weilong shouted, then reached out with his right hand and grabbed. "Your opponent is me." The human demon twisted his neck and stomped on the ground, instantly standing in front of Li Weilong. When people were angry, they would always forget something. Moreover, Li Weilong didn't think that the human demon had recovered to his peak. He might be afraid of the human demon at his peak. However, he wasn't afraid of the human demon who wasn't at his peak. "Fine, I'll kill you first. Then I'll go kill Ningyu and the others." Chapter 1886. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, the human demon and Li Weilong clashed. How is this possible? Li Weilong's expression changed drastically as soon as they clashed. He never would have thought that the human demon had recovered to his peak state. Li Weilong was very self-aware of his own strength. Even if he used all his trump cards, he definitely wouldn't be the human demon's match. Otherwise, he wouldn't have watched Old G get killed in front of the City Lord Mansion yesterday. Nothing is impossible. The human demon's expression was indifferent. He raised his right hand and punched out. Crack! The human demon's fist contained a terrifying fluctuation of yuan qi. In an instant, it arrived in front of Li Weilong's head. At the critical moment, Li Weilong hurriedly dodged to the side, barely dodging the human demon's fatal blow. "What are you all standing there for? If I die, none of you will have an easy time." After dodging the human demon's fatal blow, Li Weilong didn't counterattack. Instead, he roared at the void. Gong Yangqing wanted to possess the human demon just now. Since the human demon is fine, it means that Gong Yangqing was most likely killed. And the source energy in Gong Yangqing's body is 100% with the human demon. As long as we all work together to kill the human demon, the source energy will belong to us. Whoosh! Li Weilong's words not only shocked the experts in the void, but even the martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Plaza were in an uproar. They weren't interested in killing the human demon. After all, the human demon's cultivation was peak sage. His strength was enough to rank in the top 3 in this area. But after killing the human demon, there was a possibility of obtaining the source energy. Everyone's thoughts became lively. Although the human demon was strong, there was only one of him. As the saying goes, ants can bite an elephant to death. There were so many experts in the Pill Emperor Plaza. A mouthful of saliva from each of them was enough to drown the human demon. Fishing in troubled waters. Everyone looked at each other, seeing the excitement in each other's eyes. Although they were excited, no one dared to make a move. The bird that sticks out gets shot. No one wanted to become a live target and be caught by the demon. At this time, everyone had the same idea. Let Li Weilong and the experts hiding in the void take action. Once the human demon showed signs of defeat, they would make a move. But if the human demon fought fiercely, they would stay where they were. Go! Hearing Li Weilong's anxious words, the void suddenly split open, and a black-robed old man appeared, attacking the human demon from the east. Whoosh! 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 Then, from the west, north, and south of the demonic cultivators appeared at the same time and charged at him. Ha ha! You're still alive this time. Seeing the 4 experts hiding in the void make a move, Li Weilong immediately let out a wild laugh. After laughing maniacally, Li Weilong raised his right fist and punched at the human demon's head. North, south, east, west. From 5 different directions, 5 peak sage martial artists launched a sure-kill attack at the demon. Hiss! The sudden change caused Wu Patian and the Battle Divine Crane to suck in a mouthful of cold air. Originally, they thought that they were very strong and could be ranked in the top 3 in this area. But now, it seemed that they were wrong. Very, very wrong. Of the 4 martial artists who followed Li Wei along, any one of them was stronger than them. Although there was still a gap between their strength and the human demons, the gap was so small that it was almost negligible. Should we help? Seeing that Li Weilong and the others were about to attack the human demon, Wu Patian asked in a deep voice. Initially, when Wu Patian saw the human demon easily repelling Li Weilong, he wanted to stand on the human demon's side. But now that Li Weilong called out 4 powerful martial artists, he was a little shaken. Perhaps it was the most unwise choice to help the human demon at this time. Help! The battle divine Crane glanced at Ningyu on the other side, gritted his teeth, and said, "Even if we have to use our trump cards, we must help the human demon." The battle divine Crane and Wu Patian had different considerations. Wu Patian wanted to preserve his strength, but the battle divine Crane wanted to gamble. He had seen Ningyu ascend to the peak of the Saint Realm. When Ningyu was in the middle stage of Sage, his combat strength was already close to peak Sage. Now that he had advanced to peak Sage, even if his combat strength was not as strong as the human demon, it was not far off. In other words, if Ningyu and the human demon joined forces, Li Weilong and the other 4 martial artists could be defeated. Based on the current situation, joining forces with Ningyu and the rest was far better than joining forces with Li Weilong. All right, I'll listen to you and help the human demon. As the ruler of a region, Wu Patian was very decisive. He thought for a while and knew what the battle divine Crane was thinking. So he nodded heavily, then stomped on the ground and charged towards the peak Sage martial artists on the west side of the human demon. Behind Wu Patian, the battle divine Crane chose to attack the martial artists on the east side of the human demon. Let's go to Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an, and Zhao Heng moved at the same time and intercepted the martial artists on the north side of the human demon. As for the little Qilin, because it had devoured a part of the origin energy in the human demon's mind, its combat strength had soared to the extreme. It easily blocked the martial artists on the south side of the human demon. "You bunch of trash." Li Weilong's face changed drastically. Originally, the 5 of them had joined forces to attack the human demon. But now, the other 4 were blocked, and he was the only one left to face the human demon. Was he a match for the human demon? The answer was obviously no. The human demon only needed one move to make him vomit blood and fly out. "Everyone, let's go together. Whoever can injure the human demon, I'll give them enough origin energy." Forcefully stabilizing himself in the sky, Li Weilong said to the cultivators in the Pill Emperor's Plaza, "Through my fight with the demonic human, I have already roughly determined the origin energy in the demonic human. It's enough for 10 heavenly sovereigns to reach the pinnacle of the Saint Realm." In order to instigate the martial artists to join forces to deal with the human demon, Li Weilong could be said to be unscrupulous. Even if he didn't know how much origin energy the human demon had to exaggerate at this moment. Boom! As expected, Li Weilong's move was effective. Since ancient times, there were many people who weren't afraid of death. Previously, when everyone saw that Li Weilong had 5 pinnacle Sage Realm martial artists on his side, they thought that even if they made a move, they wouldn't be able to obtain much origin energy. But now that 4 pinnacle Sage Realm martial artists were blocked, only Li Weilong was left struggling. If they made a move at this moment, they might be able to pull a tooth out of the tiger's mouth and obtain some origin energy. "Everyone, let's go." That's right, the bold will die, and the timid will starve to death. The one who makes a move first has origin energy, and the one who makes a move later doesn't. Chapter 1887. The corner of Li Weilong's lips curled into a smile as he looked at the cultivators he had instigated. With so many people working together, it was enough to kill a worldly, immortal expert. As long as you're willing to hand over your origin energy, I can make the decision to leave your corpse intact. Li Weilong seemed to have forgotten the fear of being dominated by the human demon. Otherwise, I'll chop you into pieces and refine you into noisy. Before Li Weilong could finish his sentence, the human demon had already appeared in front of him. Smack! He raised his right hand, and a gust of yuan qi wind slammed into Li Weilong's face. The tearing pain on his face sent Li Weilong flying backwards. This time, not only did Li Weilong spit out a mouthful of blood, but even his two front teeth were knocked out by the human demon's slap. Go! Go! Everyone go! Chop him into pieces! Li Weilong scrambled up from the ground and roared hysterically. I'll give half of my origin energy to whoever can chop off his head. Whoosh! The temptation of origin energy was huge. Almost all the cultivators in the Pill Emperor's Plaza began to move. The scene of so many cultivators moving together was shocking. The crowd was like a swarm of locusts, covering the sky and earth as they charged at the human demon. Kill! Facing so many cultivators charging at him, the human demon didn't hold back at all. He waved his hands, preparing to start a massacre. You can never wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. Since these people didn't have any awareness and insisted on living in their dreams, then he could only let them die with their dreams. Crack! Crack! The human demon's first move was a killing move. To a peak sage, these Sky Supremes and initial stage sage cultivators were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Every time the human demon made a move, a large number of cultivators were killed. However, these cultivators were greatly stimulated. Under the temptation of origin energy, they charged forward wave after wave. Even if they knew it was a path of death, they still held onto a trace of hope. Oomph! I'll go capture Ningyu first. Let's see if you'll compromise. With so many helpers, Li Weilong was finally freed up. He turned to look at Ningyu on the other side and immediately came up with a countermeasure. Human Demon and Ningyu had a good relationship. As long as he could capture Ningyu, would he need to worry that the human devil wouldn't surrender? Even though Ningyu had ascended to the peak of the sage realm, to him, it was nothing much. He was all showy and not worth worrying about. Thinking of this, Li Weilong snorted coldly. Then, his figure flashed and charged toward Ningyu. Not far away, Ningyu gave all of the remaining origin power to Ning Lu and stood guard by his side, watching over him. Ning Lu didn't argue with Ningyu. He knew his body's condition better than anyone else. Fortunately, Ningyu had brought so much origin energy with him in time. Otherwise, with the state of his body, it was unknown whether he could have lasted until now. Half an hour? Thinking of Ning Lu's words, Ning Yu's expression involuntarily became solemn. Half an hour's time before Ning Lu could recover to his peak state. If it were placed in normal times, forget about half an hour. Even if it was 10 hours, Ningyu would not worry. But now a great battle was erupting on the other side. According to his intention, he wanted to go over and help. After all, with human demon strength alone, it was very hard to contend with the martial artists in the entire plaza. Die! Suddenly, a cold voice sounded in Ning Yu's ear. The voice that reached his ear made Ning Yu's expression become solemn. No need to think, the martial artist coming over was definitely Li Weilong. Ning Yu stomped both feet on the ground, his body shooting out in an instant. His fight with Li Weilong could not happen beside Ning Lu no matter what. Ning Lu was currently devouring origin power. Once disturbed, the consequences would be too ghastly to imagine. Void battle. Ning Yu tore the void with both hands, tunneling straight in. I'll kill you first before talking. Li Weilong swept a glance over Ning Lu, then followed behind Ning Yu and entered the void together. Luckily, Ning Yu concealed the aura of origin power. Otherwise, Li Weilong absolutely would not go and exchange blows with Ning Yu, but would snatch the origin power first. Ning Yu, I advise you to better surrender. A martial artist like you, I can pinch you to death with one hand. In the void, Li Weilong stood in front of Ning Yu, staring at Ning Yu rather interestedly, and said coldly, If you surrender, I might spare your dog life and let you be my lackey. Just flaunting your eloquence. Since I can kill the divine Heaven Gate's Elder G, I can kill you. Ning Yu said coolly, not affected by Li Weilong's words in the slightest. Ha ha, that trash Elder G. I can pinch him to death with one finger. Li Weilong raised his head and laughed wildly. Since you don't know what's good for you, I can only send you to heaven. The moment the word death was said, Li Weilong's body disappeared. After another second, Li Weilong appeared behind Ning Yu. Revealing an evil smile, Li Weilong punched Ning Yu's head fiercely with both fists. This time, why don't you? Li Weilong seemed to have seen the scene of Ning Yu's head exploding as he said excitedly. However, dreams were plentiful, but reality was bony. Li Weilong's fist actually passed through Ning Yu's head. After image, actually, when Li Weilong rushed out, Ning Yu had already moved. When he was in the middle stage of the Sage Realm, Ning Yu's speed was comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the Sage Realm. Now that he had advanced to the peak of the Sage Realm, his speed had increased by more than a few times. Eat my fist. In the next moment, Ning Yu suddenly appeared behind Li Weilong. A demonic flame appeared on his right hand as he punched at Li Weilong's head fiercely. The flame on Ning Yu's fist was the demonic lotus flame. In order to get rid of Li Weilong quickly, Ning Yu used his killer move in the first move. The demonic lotus flame was wrapped around his fist, and so was his royal-level soul power. Moreover, Ning Yu even used all the pneuma in his body. Oh no! Li Weilong was indeed an expert from a high-level plane. When Ning Yu's fist was only 1 centimeter away from his head, he reacted and dodged to the side hurriedly. However, Ning Yu had used all his strength in his punch. How could it be dodged so easily? Although the fist did not hit Li Weilong's head, it hit Li Weilong's back. Puffed. The tearing pain from his back caused Li Weilong to spit out a big mouthful of dark red blood. At the same time, Li Weilong's body fell straight to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Li Weilong was so angry that he let out a hysterical roar. In a short period of time, he had spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood consecutively, and his breath had dropped to the freezing point. Today is the day you die. Oh no! Seeing Li Weilong falling to the ground, Ning Yu chased after him, wanting to kill him. Chapter 1888. Ning Yu was shocked. His task was not to fight with Li Weilong, but to protect Ning Lu. Ning Lu only needed half an hour to completely devour and refine the origin energy and restore his cultivation to its peak state. Only a few minutes had passed, and Ning Lu was at the critical moment of recovery. If he was disturbed, all his efforts would be in vain. Not only would he be unable to restore his cultivation, but his life would also be threatened. This was something that Ning Yu absolutely couldn't tolerate. If you dare to touch Ning Lu, I'll definitely kill you. Ning Yu gave up on Li Weilong hurriedly, turned his head, and punched at the early-stage Sage Realm martial artist who was attacking Ning Lu. Retreat. Seeing that Ning Yu had moved his target away from him, Li Weilong felt as if he had been pardoned. He hurriedly executed the secret technique of the sect and flew far away. Li Weilong would definitely not miss such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As it turned out, his strength was still a little weaker than Ning Yu's. He had already thought it through. After escaping this time, he would contact the sect immediately and ask for some resources from the sect. As the saying went, it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Li Weilong boasted that he was a gentleman. Therefore, he could temporarily endure today's revenge and wait for another day. Can you run away? However, as soon as Li Weilong entered the void, a calm voice was transmitted into his ears before he could get far. Li Weilong's expression changed drastically when he heard the voice. However, Li Weilong had already made up his mind. Escape. Even if he had to pay any price, he had to escape. He would definitely be killed if he stayed. Even if he could resist Ning Yu's attack, he would definitely not be able to resist the human demon's attack. After all, on the other side of the battlefield, the four-peak Sage Realm martial artists that he had found were gradually showing signs of decline. It was only a matter of time before they were defeated. Blood Shield. Li Weilong gritted his teeth and forced out a few drops of essence blood on the spot to execute the Blood Shield skill. Humph! Ning Yu coldly snorted and punched out. Instantly, the earth shook and the mountains shook. The void exploded. Immediately after, Ning Yu chased after Li Weilong. His fist, which contained terrifying yuan qi fluctuations, directly landed on Li Weilong's body. Bang! Ning Yu's punch immediately blasted Li Weilong out of the void, causing him to fall heavily to the ground. This is impossible. Li Weilong's pupils shrank. He first looked at Ningyu, who was floating above his head, and then looked at Ning Lu, who was on the other side. He exclaimed, "Where is that warrior at the early stage of the Saint Realm? Why did he disappear?" It was no wonder that Li Weilong was surprised. From the moment Ningyu gave up on attacking him to the moment he returned to attack him, only 1 second had passed. In 1 second, Ningyu not only killed the early-stage Sage Realm warrior who wanted to hurt Ning Lu, but also returned to his side and severely injured him again. Li Weilong dared to conclude that even warriors at the great completion of the Saint Realm might not be able to do such a terrible thing. And Ningyu's cultivation was only at the peak of the Saint Realm. How could he do this? You will never know about this in your lifetime. Ningyu's face was extremely cold. He clenched his right fist and punched again. Crack! In the blink of an eye, Ningyu's punch arrived in front of Li Weilong's heart and punched heavily. Under Ningyu's powerful attack, Li Weilong's heart was pierced on the spot and he died. Primordial Spirit, come here. For a peak expert like Li Weilong, it was not a big deal to destroy his physical body. As long as his primordial spirit was still there, he could seize another body and be reborn. However, would Ningyu give Li Weilong a chance? The answer was obviously no. Ningyu's right hand grabbed the air and directly grabbed Li Weilong's primordial spirit. Give me his primordial spirit. Just as Ningyu was about to completely destroy Li Weilong's primordial spirit, a familiar voice sounded in his mind. Hearing this familiar voice, Ningyu's face lit up. The Red Devil. Recently, the Red Devil had been in seclusion in the Red Devil Sword and did not participate in anything. Ningyu originally thought that the Red Devil would be in seclusion for a while. Who would have thought that the Red Devil would contact him now? Here you go. Without another word, Ningyu threw Li Weilong's primordial spirit to the Red Devil on the spot. In the storage ring, the Red Devil Sword flew in the air and directly devoured Li Weilong's soul power. Give me 3 more days. I will come out of seclusion in 3 days. Hong Mo left behind these words and then fell silent once again. Ningyu was already used to the Red Devil's silence, so he did not make a fuss. At this moment, Ning Lu, who was on the other side, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face became somewhat pale. Seeing this, Ningyu hurriedly flew over. "Are you okay?" A worried look appeared on Ningyu's face. The person who killed the early-stage sage just now was not Ningyu. When Ningyu turned his head, he received a voice transmission from Ning Lu, telling him to focus on dealing with Li Weilong. He could deal with the early-stage sage himself. Ningyu knew that Ning Lu never lied. If he said he could deal with it, he would definitely be able to. Moreover, Li Weilong was seriously injured today, so it was the best opportunity to kill him. If he missed this opportunity, there would not be another one. That was why Li Weilong exclaimed in shock and disbelief. "It's okay, I won't die." Ning Lu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "It's all thanks to the origin energy you gave me. The origin energy is really a rare tonic for the world tree." "What do you mean?" Ningyu looked at Ning Lu doubtfully. Taking a deep breath, Ning Lu explained, "Originally, I thought that with the origin energy, I would need half an hour to recover. However, the moment I devoured the origin energy, I realized that I was wrong. Very wrong. The origin energy is the most precious thing in the celestial spirit realm. It is very useful and contains some great path energy." Hearing this, Ningyu exclaimed, "Great path energy." The great path energy was not an ordinary thing. Relatively speaking, it was above all nomological powers. In other words, those who possessed the great path energy would be extremely powerful. The origin energy you gave me only contained a trace of the great path energy, but it was very helpful to me. Ning Lu continued, "My original body is the world tree. The great path energy and the origin energy awaken some memories." "Awaken memories?" Ningyu asked doubtfully. "That's right." Ning Lu nodded and said, "According to the memories I awakened, I know that not all lower planes have the great path energy. However, the celestial spirit realm is special. This lower plane has the great path energy." No wonder experts from the higher planes keep descending. Even the demon spirit realm is attacking the celestial spirit realm, Ningyu said. Some things were gradually being unveiled. There is one more thing you need to pay attention to. Chapter 1889. Human Immortal, a realm that surpassed sage perfection realm. Due to the existence of the plane barrier, everyone's cultivation level in the immortal spirit realm was suppressed to peak sage perfection realm. Even if they had the origin energy, they could only raise their cultivation level to sage perfection realm. One had to know that these warriors who had descended from the higher planes, such as Li Weilong and Gong Yangqing, had already reached the human immortal realm or even surpassed it. Once the plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm loosened, these people would be able to display the strength of a human immortal without relying on the origin energy. How terrifying would that be? A strong sense of danger rose in Ning Yu's heart. Although he had advanced to peak sage perfection realm and his overall combat strength could match a sage perfection realm cultivator, which was a half-step human immortal. But if he met a real human immortal, he could only regret it. How are your internal injuries? Ning Yu took a deep breath and temporarily suppressed the worries in his heart. He looked at Ning Lu and asked, "When will my cultivation recover to its peak state?" Ning Yu was very anxious. In the distance, the human demon and the little Qilin were fighting fiercely. Although they had an absolute advantage on the battlefield, their opponent was a powerhouse from a higher plane. Who knew if they had any trump cards? It would be fine if they did not have trump cards. Once they did, the human demon and the others would be the ones to lose. Ning Yu's thoughts were simple. As long as Ning Lu was fine, he would immediately go over to help. "I'm at my peak state now." Ning Lu smiled faintly. Then, he suddenly released his aura. Boom! With Ning Lu as the center, a terrifying aura shot into the sky. "My origin energy!" Feeling the aura from Ning Lu, Ning Yu's mouth opened slightly. He was a little stunned. The origin energy he had given Ning Lu was limited, only about half. Forget about half of it. Even if Ning Lu was given a few times more origin energy, Ning Lu would not be able to be like this. Peak Sage Perfection Realm. Ning Lu's cultivation level was the same as his. They had also advanced to Peak Sage Perfection Realm. At first, Ning Yu thought that it was very fast for him to advance from mid-stage Sage Perfection Realm to Peak Sage Perfection Realm in 3 minutes. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, Ning Lu's cultivation level broke through again and again, advancing from the early stage of the Saint Realm to the peak of the Saint Realm. This was really comparing people to people. No, it should be comparing people to trees. It was infuriating. "I told you, I've awakened the memories of my body." Ning Lu said, "My main body is the world tree, the most terrifying tree in this world. Every time I awaken my memories, my strength will skyrocket. This time, the source energy you gave me happened to awaken my memories, so my cultivation advanced from the early stage of the Saint Realm to the peak of the Saint Realm. You don't need to make a fuss about this. As long as you can give me a large amount of origin energy, I can even attain human immortal status in the immortal spirit realm." As he spoke, Ning Lu's figure flashed, and he joined the battlefield on the other side. Looking at Ning Lu's departing figure, Ning Yu's expression became extremely grave. In his previous life, he was only a Sky Supreme, a long way from becoming a sage. Human immortals were even more unimaginable. After being reborn, not only did he ascend to the peak of the sage realm, he could even peek into the secrets of the worldly immortals. This meant that he had a huge, fortuitous encounter. However, Ning Yu was not complacent. On the contrary, he was very careful. The appearance of the great Tao put the immortal spirit realm at the heart of the struggle. In the following period of time, the celestial spirit realm would become the most bustling of all the lower realms. Ning Yu could predict that the lower realms around the immortal spirit realm would definitely send people over. And the powerful experts and top sects of the higher realms would all send their experts down to snatch the fortuitous encounters. After all, the temptation of the great Tao was too great. Thinking of this, Ning Yu took a deep breath and his expression became more and more grave. At the mention of the great Tao, he finally reacted. No wonder there was a gap when he was devouring Gong Yangqing's memories. At that time, he could not understand it. Now that he thought about it, that gap must have something to do with the great Tao, but it had been erased by the powerful experts. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu leaped up and followed Ning Lu, joining the battlefield on the other side. The matter of the great Tao would not be leaked for the time being. At most, only a few of the top experts would know. The most important thing now was to help Human Demon and the others get rid of the trouble in front of them. Rumble. The battle in the air was unusually intense. Before Ning Yu and Ning Lu had joined the battle, Human Demon and the others had the absolute advantage. Now that they had joined the battle, the scales of victory were completely tilted towards Human Demon and the others. Retreat. The four peak sage experts fighting with Human Demon and the others were not fools. They had clearly seen the scene of Li Weilong's death. Now that two more people had joined the battle, if they stayed, they would probably not be any better off than Li Weilong. Rather than stay and die, they might as well leave. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. Do you think you can escape? With the addition of Ning Yu and Ning Lu, Human Demon felt very relaxed. Because Ning Lu and Ning Yu's main targets were the instigated martial artists in the Alchemy Emperor Square. In other words, he was finally free. In the next moment, Human Demon's hands tore through the void and directly drilled into it. When Human Demon came out again, he was already in front of one of the peak sage experts. Die! Human Demon clenched his right fist and suddenly punched out. Human Demon's punch seemed ordinary and calm, but in fact, it contained a terrifying law power. No! Seeing Human Demon's fist coming toward him, the peak sage expert's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly tried to use his trump card to deal with it. Pucci. However, if he wanted to use his trump card, he would need at least a few minutes. Human Demon's attack was fast, so how could he give him time to use his trump card? Therefore, before he could use his trump card, he was smashed into pieces by Human Demon's punch. Whoosh! The death of this peak sage expert caused the other three peak sage experts' expressions to change drastically. If Human Demon could kill a martial artist of the same cultivation level as them with one punch, he could also kill them with one punch. Let's split up and run. Every one of us who can escape counts. The three of them looked at each other, then forced Wu Patian and the others to retreat and flew in three different directions. Human Demon coldly snorted when he saw the three martial artists running away. Then, he chased after the martial artists in the east. Swoosh! Swoosh! Not long after Human Demon rushed out, two more figures dashed out of the square. Needless to say, these two martial artists were Ning Yu and Ning Lu. There were three peak sage experts in total. Human Demon would deal with one, and the remaining two would naturally be dealt with by the strongest martial artist present. Chapter 1890. Rustle. As the saying goes, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Li Weilong's death and the escape of several pinnacle Saint Realm cultivators had caused the entire Pill Emperor Plaza to fall into silence. Origin energy was precious, but one had to be alive to obtain it. If the hearts of the people were scattered, it would be extremely difficult to gather them again. The cultivators in the Pill Emperor Plaza all had different thoughts in their hearts. Some wanted to continue attacking, some wanted to fish in troubled waters, and some even wanted to leave early. However, when Wu Patian attacked and killed a few cultivators who were trying to escape, all the cultivators' expressions changed drastically. Although the three strongest cultivators had left, the ones that remained were also powerful. For example, Wu Patian was the strongest in the martial domain. The Divine War Crane was the strongest in the Battle God domain. Even Yi, Jiansong, and Meng Chang'an were amongst the top in the Sky Demon domain. If they wanted to escape, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Who knows? Ningyu and the rest might be killed. A heavenly sovereign coldly snorted in the Pill Emperor Plaza. Right now, if they wanted to live, Their only hope was to see Ning Yu and the human demon being killed. This was the only way for them to escape in the chaos. Otherwise, when Ning Yu returned, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Although Ning Yu wouldn't kill all of them, it was unavoidable for them to suffer a little. Ning Yu had no idea about what was happening in the Pill Emperor Plaza. But even if he knew, he couldn't care about it right now. He, Ning Lu, and the human demon joined hands to chase after the three pinnacle Saint Realm cultivators. In the beginning, they were getting closer to the three pinnacle Saint Realm cultivators. But as time passed, the distance between them and the three pinnacle Saint Realm cultivators grew further and further. Damn it! After chasing for roughly an hour, Ning Yu and the human demon stopped in the sky. The human demon's face was unsightly. He initially thought that he could kill the other party, but the other party's speed was too fast. It was so fast that he couldn't even react in time. Let's return. A brief moment later, the human demon sighed and wanted to return to the Pill Emperor's city. No need, I found them. Ning Lu pointed at the void in front of him and said, if I'm not wrong, the three of them are over there. Over there? Both Ning Yu and the human demon were taken aback. The two of them had already unleashed their perception and were probing their surroundings. However, he did not find any traces of the three martial artists who had escaped. But Ning Lu said that the three of them were there. How could Ning Yu and Human Devil not be shocked? Just now, when I was chasing after that martial artist, I specifically remembered his aura. The corners of Ning Lu's mouth curled up as he said, I wasn't too sure at first, but now I've discovered that there are three powerful auras in the void over there. Each of them has reached the peak of the Sage Realm. Realm? Ha ha ha. As soon as Ning Lu's voice rang out, a wild laughter rang out from the void. Immediately after, the space Ning Lu pointed at suddenly exploded, and three cultivators appeared from within. It really is you guys. Looking at the three cultivators who had suddenly appeared, the human demon's face was ashen. He said in a low voice, if you had insisted on running, I might not have been able to do anything to you. But now that you've come out on your own, don't blame me for being ruthless. As soon as the word ruthless fell, the human demon stomped on the ground and charged out. The human demon was very fast. In almost an instant, he had arrived in front of the three-peak Sage Realm martial artists. Swish, swish, swish. The human demon waved his hands and threw out three consecutive punches. Facing the three punches, the three-peak Sage Realm martial artists did not seem to be worried at all. Instead, they crossed their arms in front of their chests and looked at the human demon as if he was a joke. Retreat. For some reason, seeing the three-peak Sage Realm martial artists so confident, Ning Yu felt that there was some kind of conspiracy going on. Crack. Just as expected. As soon as Ning Yu's voice rang out, he heard a crisp crack. Without a doubt, this cracking sound came from the human demon's fist. Buzz. The void split again, and an old man in white slowly appeared in front of Ning Yu and the rest. Hiss. Ning Yu and the others gasped when they sensed the aura emanating from the old man in white. Human immortal. The old man in white's cultivation had surpassed the Sage Realm. He had reached the higher human immortal realm. Ning Yu was very confused. Wasn't it said that due to the plane barrier, no human immortals would appear in the immortal spirit region? Why was the old man in white able to reach the human immortal realm? All sorts of questions arose in Ning Yu's mind. But now, Ning Yu did not have time to think about this. To him, the most important thing was not to find out why the old man in white could emit the aura of a human immortal, but to leave as soon as possible. After all, they did not have the confidence to fight against a human immortal realm expert. Go. Ning Yu made a prompt decision. He grabbed the human demon's arm and flew into the distance. Go. Do you think you can leave? The old man in white smirked, then clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the air. Bang, bang, bang. It looked like the old man had only punched once, but that was not the case. In a short period of time, he had punched hundreds and thousands of times. Countless fist radiance landed on Ning Yu and the human demon. The huge force from their bodies made it impossible for Ning Yu and the human demon to move forward. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As soon as Ning Yu and human demon stopped, the white-clothed old man and 3 warriors at the peak of the sage realm chased after them. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Open your mind and let me control it. The old man did not kill Ning Yu and the rest immediately. Instead, he said with a cold expression, "Otherwise, I will let you know the meaning of cruelty." Something's wrong. Hearing the old man's words, the human demon vaguely felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, a worldly immortal stage expert would have an absolute advantage over a sage stage expert. Martial artists became sage realm and transcended to become immortals. Immortals and mortals were 2 completely different levels. If human immortals wanted to control sage realm martial artists, they didn't need to let them open their minds. They only needed to force them. Now, the white-robed old man's words made the human devil suspicious. Maybe the old man wasn't a human immortal, but a complete sage realm martial artist who only had a treasure that could hide from the heavens. Thinking of this, the human demon secretly gave Ning Yu and Ning Lu a look. How smart were Ning Yu and Ning Lu? Although it was just a glance from the human demon, they reacted immediately. Senior human demon, you go deal with the 3 peak sage realm martial artists. Leave the old man to me and Ning Lu. Ning Yu carefully transmitted his voice to the human demon. Among the 3 of them, the human demon was the strongest. He should have been the one to deal with the old man. But the old man had ambushed him earlier, so he wasn't at his peak. Chapter 1891. Refusing a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The white-clothed old man grunted coldly when he saw that Ning Yu and the others were unwilling to relax their minds for a long time, and he said in a ghastly voice, "Since all of you are so thick-headed, then I'll let all of you know what a true immortal is." As he spoke, the white-robed elder flicked his sleeves, and a crescent moon scimitar appeared in his hand. Slash! As the white-robed elder roared, the crescent moon scimitar suddenly slashed downwards. Whoosh! Wherever the crescent moon scimitar passed, the space was torn apart, and the primal chi scattered in all directions. A terrifying saber seal was formed, and it grew larger and larger as it slashed towards the human demon. Whoosh! Before the saber seal could reach the human demon stomped on the ground and instantly leaped out. According to the agreement, the human demon's opponents were 3 pinnacle sage martial artists, not the white-robed elder. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as the human demon rushed out, Ning Yu and Ning Lu hurriedly chased after him and took his place. Divine sword wave, sky-splitting palm of fortune. Ning Yu did not hold back at all, and instantly used 3 sage-level martial techniques. The terrifying shockwaves that covered the sky and earth collided with the saber seal. However, the 3 sage-level martial techniques that Ning Yu used did not last long before they were dispersed by the saber seal. Fortunately, although Ning Yu's attack was dispersed, it greatly reduced the speed of the saber seal and dampened its sharpness. Open! After 3 moves, Ning Yu immediately retreated. Ning Lu opened his mouth and spat out a dark green branch. A dark golden branch. Before reaching the pinnacle sage level, the more dark golden branches Ning Lu formed, the stronger he would be. But now he had already fused all the dark golden branches together, forming a dark golden branch. The dark golden branch that Ning Lu spat out was about the thickness of an arm, and it was more than 3 meters long. Ding! The saber seal and the dark golden branch collided. A crisp sound rang out, and then the saber seal dissipated on the spot, and the dark golden branch returned to Ning Lu's hand. What? The white-clad old man's expression changed drastically when he saw the saber seal he had cast dissipate. His trump card was the crescent blade in his hand. The saber seal that he had just slashed out had gathered almost all of his primordial chi. It could be said that if he did not use the full moon scimitar, his strength would drop by a huge level. Originally, he thought that after using the full moon scimitar, he would be able to instantly end the battle. Who would have thought that he would fail miserably in such an easy task? The saber seal that he had displayed had been forcefully blocked by 2 warriors at the peak of the Sage Realm. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. While the white-robed old man was still in shock, the human demon on the other side was already showing off his might. The human devil held his breath. Although he had suffered a sneak attack from the white-robed old man, he was still the strongest person in this area apart from the white-robed old man. In order to kill 3 peak sages in a short time, the human demon decided to burn his blood essence and unleash a powerful attack. As it turned out, the human demon's decision was correct. In the face of his powerful attack, the 3 peak sage warriors were unable to withstand it and spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Die! The human demon's eyes were already bloodshot. After his attack succeeded, he immediately chased after them. By phone, save me! The 3 peak sages cried out in unison when they saw the human demon charging towards them. However, By phone was like a clay Buddha crossing a river. He could not even protect himself. So how could he have the time to help them? Crack! 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 Almost in an instant, the human demon arrived in front of the 3 peak sage warriors. The human demon did not hold back at all. He directly threw out 3 punches, each one landing on the heart of a peak sage warrior. Almost in an instant, the hearts of the 3 peak sage warriors were pierced, and they died on the spot. Poochie. Although he had killed 3 peak sage warriors, the human demon situation was not optimistic either. The excessive consumption of primordial chi caused the human demon's face to turn pale and his aura to become extremely weak. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow. We will meet again. On the other side of the battlefield, Bai Feng's face was gloomy. He immediately decided to leave this area. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. The primordial chi in his body was only enough for him to use the full moon scimitar once. If the full moon scimitar did not severely injure Ning Yu and Ning Lu this time, then he would face a calamity. When the immortal spirit realm is in complete chaos and the plane barrier is broken, it will be the time of your deaths. Before leaving, Bai Feng did not forget to leave behind some harsh words. When he was in a higher plane, his cultivation level was that of a human immortal. He had thought that he could do whatever he wanted in the immortal spirit realm, but he had miscalculated. The plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm was still very strong. With the restrictions of the plane barrier, he could at most display the battle strength of sage great perfection, which was half a step into human immortal. This battle strength was not enough for him to dominate the immortal spirit realm. At the very least, the few warriors in front of him were not weaker than him. Waving his hands, Bai Feng tore through the void and entered. Ning Lu, inject all the primordial chi in your body into my body. You must not let him escape. Seeing Bai Feng enter the void, Ning Yu's expression changed, and he immediately shouted at Ning Lu. Ning Yu knew how terrible the consequences would be if he let a human immortal expert escape. When the plane barrier was broken and the immortal spirit realm changed, it could be the day of his death. So now, Ning Yu decided to use all his trump cards to kill Bai Feng. Through the battle just now, Ning Yu had a rough idea of Bai Feng's true strength. Without the full moon scimitar, his strength should be about the same as Li Weilong's. Using the full moon scimitar, his strength was stronger than Gong Yanqing's. Now that the full moon scimitar could not be used for a second attack, it was the best time to kill him. If he missed this opportunity, there would not be another one. Open your mind. Ning Lu was very decisive. He shouted and then transferred all the primordial chi in his body, including some of the essence of the world tree, into Ning Yu's body. Wong Wong. With the increase of the primordial chi in his body, Ning Yu's aura was rising at a terrifying speed. Ning Yu's cultivation had reached the limit of the immortal spirit realm, the peak of the sage realm. But his strength was far from the limit. In ancient times, some peerless geniuses could even kill human immortals when they were at the peak of the sage realm. Some could even kill earth immortals when they were at the peak of the sage realm. Ning Yu could only kill half-step human immortals when he was at the peak of the sage realm. there was still a lot of room for improvement. Crack, crack, crack. The essence of the world tree could refine one's body. Ningyu's body had been tempered by the blood of the true dragon and the blood of the Kirin, so it was unusually tough. Now that his body had been purified by the world tree, his body quality had more than doubled. Previously, Ningyu could only fight a half-step human immortal when he used all his trump cards. But after being tempered by the essence of the world tree, he only needed to rely on his physical strength to fight a half-step human immortal. Chapter 1892. Ning Lu, go take care of the human demon. I'll be right back. Feeling the terrifying power coursing through his body, Ningyu's figure flashed. He tore open the void and entered. Ningyu only had one thought in his mind, and that was to kill Bai Feng. As for other matters, they could be put aside for now. The three-peak sage martial artists had all been killed by the human demon, so this area was very safe. As for killing Bai Feng, neither Ning Lu nor the human demon could help. Ningyu could only rely on himself. When he was fighting with Bai Feng, Ningyu had already locked on to his aura. According to Ningyu's estimation, if Bai Feng did not increase his speed, he would be able to catch up with him in half an hour. Phew! In the void not far from Ningyu, Bai Feng looked back and let out a long sigh. To be honest, Bai Feng still had lingering fears. The full moon scimitar in his hand could not be used for a second strike in a short period of time, which greatly reduced his combat power. Even though he had the strength of a half-step human immortal, he did not dare to fight with Ningyu head-on. After all, this was the immortal spirit realm, and the plane barrier had not been completely broken. Without the strength of a human immortal, he was not confident that he could kill Ningyu. When I recover, it will be the time of your death. Bai Feng clenched his fists and kept the full moon scimitar in his robes. He then walked on leisurely. After all, in Bai Feng's opinion, Ningyu would never chase after him. Bai Feng was very confident about this. Bai Feng was already fantasizing about how to dominate the immortal spirit realm, because when the plane barrier was broken, he would be able to use the strength of a human immortal. In a small place like the immortal spirit realm, if he could use the strength of a human immortal, how could he not dominate? Moreover, he had the full moon scimitar. With the full moon scimitar, he could even fight against an earth immortal with the cultivation of a human immortal. It seems that spending so much effort to bring the full moon scimitar here was the right choice. The corner of Bai Feng's lips curled up into a smile. He was very satisfied with his initial decision. Following that, time passed minute by minute. Drip, drip. Since he was certain that Ningyu wouldn't chase after him, Bai Feng was very relaxed and didn't panic at all. Under such circumstances, Ningyu would have needed half an hour to catch up with Bai Feng. In the end, it only took him 10 minutes. Not good. Bai Feng was indeed a peak-level expert. When Ningyu was 100 meters away from him, he reacted. Clenching his fists, Bai Feng punched out. Gotcha! Bai Feng's punch was so powerful that it caused the void to crackle. Divine Sword Wave. In the face of Bai Feng's terrifying fist light, Ningyu was not afraid at all. He used his right hand as a sword and used the supreme 9-purity sword art on the spot. Ka! The sword wave and the fist light collided, instantly erupting a terrifying aura. A clear and crisp sound rang out as Bai Feng swiftly retreated a few hundred meters before coming to a stop. Although Bai Feng used the fist light to block, Ning used Divine Sword Wave. The aftermath of the Divine Sword Wave still caused Bai Feng to spit out a mouthful of blood. Bai Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stared at Ningyu in front of him. He said coldly, "I didn't expect you to dare to chase after me. Why not?" Ningyu looked at Bai Feng coldly and said, "From a moment you decided to help those 3 pieces of trash, your fate has already been decided." "My fate has already been decided?" Bai Feng pointed at his nose as if he had heard something unbelievable. He said sinisterly, "I'm afraid you've lost your mind. To deal with you, I only need to use the full moon scimitar once to easily kill you." As he spoke, Bai Feng took out the full moon scimitar. As expected, Ning Yu's expression finally changed when he saw the full moon scimitar in Bai Feng's hand. His expression became extremely solemn. Ning Yu had already witnessed the full moon scimitar's ability. Not long ago, Bai Feng had used the full moon scimitar to slash at him. At that time, if he and Ning Lu had not used all their strength to block that slash, it would have been very difficult for them to block it. Now that Bai Feng had taken out the full moon scimitar, how could Ning Yu not be solemn? However, although his expression was solemn, the current Ning Yu was no longer the same as before. In terms of strength, the current Ning Yu could easily kill the previous Ning Yu. In other words, with Ning Yu's current strength, it was not impossible for him to block the full moon scimitar. Who doesn't know how to brag? Thinking of this, Ning Yu slightly adjusted his state of mind and said coldly, "Let's see who's the real deal." As soon as he said that, Ning Yu instantly dashed out. Divine Sword Wave. Ning Yu's first move was still the Divine Sword Wave. The Divine Sword Wave was the 12th move of the Supreme 9 Purity Sword skill, and it was extremely powerful. In the past, when Ning Yu used the Divine Sword Wave, he could already kill people above his level. Now that he had successfully advanced to the peak of the Sage Realm and had been tempered by the World Tree, his strength had increased by more than a few times. Facing Ning Yu's Divine Sword Wave, even though Bai Feng was very arrogant, he did not dare to face it head-on. "I still have some matters to attend to. See you later." Bai Feng's feet stepped on the ground, and he immediately went into the void. Just now, in the face of Ning Yu's Divine Sword Wave, Bai Feng had already been injured. Before he was injured, Bai Feng was very confident that he could block the Divine Sword Wave, but now that he was injured, he naturally did not have much confidence. As long as there is life, there is hope. Bai Feng still knew this principle. However, seeing Bai Feng escape, Ning Yu waved his hands and once again performed 2 terrifying attacks. Netherworld Samsara Palm. Emperor God Technique. At this moment, Ning Yu's 3 Sage level martial skills were all performed. Bang! 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 Bai Feng only wanted to escape, so naturally, he would not stop to face Ning Yu head-on. However, facing the 3 attacks from Ning Yu, Bai Feng was unable to dodge. 3 consecutive Sage-ranked martial techniques landed on Bai Feng's back in an unavoidable manner. 3 crisp sounds were heard. Then Bai Feng spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Damn it! Since he knew that he could not escape, Bai Feng simply stopped. After cursing, Bai Feng took out a small jade bottle and swallowed the elixir in it on the spot. Buzz! As the elixir entered his stomach, Bai Feng's aura actually soared at an extremely terrifying speed. In just a few seconds, Bai Feng still recovered to his peak state. In other words, the current Bai Feng's combat strength was comparable to before. In fact, it was even slightly stronger. You have completely angered me. Chapter 1893. Bai Feng's change naturally fell into Ning Yu's eyes. If Ning Yu felt that he could easily defeat Bai Feng before, then he might have to use all his strength now. Even if he used all his strength, he might not be able to kill Bai Feng, because Bai Feng's current strength was extremely powerful. In terms of strength, Bai Feng was even more powerful than Gong Yangqing. There are many people who want to refine me into a puppet. I wonder who you are. Ning Yu took a deep breath and said with a solemn expression, "After today, Bai Feng will no longer exist in this world." Ha ha! Bai Feng threw his head back and laughed wildly. As Bai Feng laughed wildly, his body suddenly disappeared and turned into a shadow, charging at Ning Yu. Bai Feng's first move did not use the full moon scimitar, but directly used his physical strength to attack Ning Yu. The elixir that Bai Feng swallowed was called the Berserk Elixir. It was a little different from the ordinary Berserk Elixir. The Berserk Elixir that Bai Feng swallowed could temporarily increase his physical strength. Bai Feng's physical strength was originally at the human immortal level. After swallowing the Berserk Elixir, his physical strength was already showing signs of breaking through to the Earth immortal level. Therefore, Bai Feng did not use the full moon scimitar in his first move. Instead, he wanted to use his physical strength to kill Ning Yu. Good move. Seeing that Bai Feng wanted to use his physical strength to kill him, Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. The worry in his heart was slightly reduced. After being tempered by the World Tree, Ning Yu's current physical strength was not any weaker than a human immortal level expert. Ning Yu was not worried at all when facing Bai Feng's physical strength. On the contrary, he was a little excited, because after this blow, he would at least be able to determine the level of his physical strength. Bang! In a flash, Ning Yu's fist collided with Bai Feng's fist. When the two fists collided, the earth-shattering aura did not happen. Instead, Ning Yu and Bai Feng both retreated. Impossible. Looking at Ning Yu, who had retreated a similar distance away from him, Bai Feng's mouth gaped open, his face filled with disbelief. He was very confident in his physical strength. Even in higher planes, his physical strength was not weak. Now that he had swallowed the pills, his physical strength had reached a new peak, and there was a faint sign that he was heading towards the earthly immortal stage. But even so, he couldn't kill Ning Yu with just a punch of his physical strength. In fact, not to mention killing it, he didn't even have the slightest advantage. Nothing is impossible. Ning Yu's face was expressionless as he said indifferently. Ning Yu might look calm on the surface, but that was not the case. Right now, his heart was already surging with raging waves. He knew that his physical strength was very strong, but he didn't expect it to be this strong. When I advance to the half-step human immortal stage, I should be able to fight human immortal stage martial artists with just my physical strength. Ning Yu recalculated his strength. Previously, he thought that his overall strength was enough to fight against a half-step human immortal. But after this attack, he realized that he was wrong. With just his physical strength, he already had the ability to fight against a half-step human immortal. With his other trump cards, he could easily kill a half-step human immortal expert with his current strength. Of course, not all half-step human immortals could be killed. At the very least, he couldn't kill half-step human immortals who were stronger than Bai Feng. Again, Bai Feng's face was cold. After the first attack, he immediately followed up with a second attack. I'll fight you to the end. The corner of Ning Yu's mouth curled up slightly. He clenched his right fist and was about to meet Bai Feng's fist. However, just as Ning Yu was about to throw out a punch, he quickly retreated. He thought that Bai Feng would still use his physical strength for the second attack, but who would have thought that Bai Feng would take out the full moon scimitar halfway? At the same time, Bai Feng channeled all his primordial chi into the full moon scimitar. Kill! Following Bai Feng's cold words, the full moon scimitar in his hand slashed down. Rumble! A terrifying saber mark was peeled off from the full moon scimitar and fiercely slammed towards Ning Yu. Facing the incoming terrifying saber mark, Ning Yu quickly changed his strategy. He gathered all his primordial chi, soul power, and demonic lotus flame on his fist. Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron. Ning Yu even took out the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron and threw it at the saber mark in midair. The reason why Ning Yu acted as if he was facing a great enemy was because the saber mark that Bai Feng slashed out was many times more powerful than before. Although Ning Yu's strength had increased, the power of the saber mark that Bai Feng had unleashed had also increased. Crack! In midair, the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron collided with the huge saber mark. Without a doubt, the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron did not withstand the attack of the saber mark, and a crack appeared on it. Fortunately, Ning Yu had retrieved the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron at the critical moment. Otherwise, the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron would definitely have been blasted into two. This battle was practically the most terrifying battle in Ning Yu's life. Even when facing Gong Yangqing in the Pill Emperor City, Ning Yu did not have such a feeling. After all, the strength that Bai Feng had displayed had already far surpassed that of Gong Yangqing. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll refine you into a puppet. After slashing out, Bai Feng floated in midair and looked at Ning Yu like a victor. He said sinisterly, "Everyone who goes against me will end up like this. I'll first refine you into a puppet, then I'll refine your friends into puppets too." Ha ha! As he spoke, Bai Feng laughed to himself, because as far as he was concerned, Ning Yu would definitely die this time. The power of the saber mark that he had unleashed with all his might had already reached the peak of his life. He was very confident that even a true pinnacle human immortal would definitely not be able to withstand this saber strike. Block it! The crack on the heavenly fire pill cauldron caused Ning Yu's fist to collide with the saber mark in the blink of an eye. Chi. On the surface of Ning Yu's fist, Yuan Qi, demonic lotus flame, and soul power were all entwined. For a moment, the saber mark could not move an inch forward. The changes in the scene naturally could not be hidden from Bai Feng's eyes. He raised his brows, slightly surprised. But that was all. Bai Feng did not think that Ning Yu could withstand his saber mark. Crack! 3 seconds later, the Yuan Qi on Ning Yu's fist was completely shattered. Crack! Another 3 seconds later, the demonic lotus flame on Ning Yu's fist collapsed and was absorbed into Ning Yu's body. Crack! Another 3 seconds later, the soul power on Ning Yu's fist was completely shattered. Puffed. The shattering of the soul power caused Ning Yu to spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot, his face turning pale. Ning Yu did not seem to care about all of this. He gathered all the physical strength in his body into his fist. Then the fist and the saber mark collided. Crack! Chapter 1894. I advise you not to resist pointlessly. If you give up now, I might spare your life. Bai Feng smirked. After all, I have just arrived at the celestial spirit region and do not know much about this place. I need a dog guide to... However, before Bai Feng could finish his sentence, his mouth opened slightly and an extremely shocked expression appeared on his face. Crack! In the eye of the storm, Ning Yu seemed to possess terrifying strength as he smashed the saber seal into two. Bai Feng was so shocked that he could not speak. The saber seal that he had unleashed with all his might, a saber seal that was comparable to the full power of a pinnacle human immortal, had been blocked by a pinnacle sage. How could Bai Feng not be shocked? Run! However, Bai Feng did not lose his mind. If he could escape once, he could escape twice, or even thrice. In order to activate the saber seal with the full moon saber, Bai Feng had used up all the energy in his body. In other words, any sage-level warrior would be able to kill Bai Feng at this moment. If he did not escape before Ning Yu reacted, he would not be able to escape. Swoosh! No matter what Bai Feng did, he was never sloppy or sloppy. As soon as he said he would leave, he tore open the void and entered. Whoosh! Ning Yu saw how Bai Feng escaped. However, Ning Yu was not in a hurry to chase after him, because in his current state, Bai Feng's speed would be halved. Rather than taking a huge risk to chase after Bai Feng, he might as well adjust his mental state to its peak before giving chase. After all, Ning Yu's losses in this battle were too great. In this battle, cracks appeared in the Heaven Fire Elixir Cauldron, and the demonic Lotus Flame lost its former glory. His soul power was extremely weak, and his energy was depleted. Tragic. This battle could only be described as tragic. Luckily, Ning Yu's body had been tempered by the blood of the true dragon, Qilin, and World Tree. It was extremely tough. Bai Feng's saber seal created a crack, but the crack quickly healed. After resting on the spot for about 10 minutes, Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes, stamped his feet on the ground, and dashed out. Although the 10 minutes of recuperation did not allow Ning Yu to completely recover to his peak state, in general, Ning Yu's strength had more or less recovered. It was enough to chase after Bai Feng in this state. Xiao! Tearing through the void, Ning Yu chased after the full moon scimitar's aura. Bai Feng came from a higher plane, so it was too difficult to lock onto his aura. However, the full moon scimitar had a special aura. Ning Yu knew that as long as he locked onto the full moon scimitar, he would definitely be able to catch up to Bai Feng. Unless Bai Feng gave up the full moon blade. I must take revenge for this. After running at full speed for more than 10 minutes, Bai Feng turned around and found that Ning Yu was not chasing after him. He could not help but let out a long sigh. In Bai Feng's opinion, losing to Ning Yu in this battle was a humiliation for him. If he had lost to someone from a higher plane, he would not have felt ashamed. After all, his opponent was from a higher plane and could be an Earth immortal. However, Ningyu was different. Bai Feng knew very well that Ningyu was an immortal spirit state native, and his cultivation was only at the peak of sage. Losing to Ningyu was a great humiliation for Bai Feng. Your friends are all in Alchemy Emperor City. I will recuperate for a while, then go to Alchemy Emperor City and kill all your friends. Bai Feng's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He secretly made up his mind that the first thing he would do after recuperating to his peak state was to go to Alchemy Emperor City and start a massacre. He would kill Ningyu's friends first, then deal with Ningyu. I'm sorry, you may not have this chance. Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang in Bai Feng's ears. Bai Feng's expression changed when he heard the voice. Bai Feng did not need to think to know that Ningyu had caught up to him. You're really haunting me. Bai Feng forced himself to calm down and said coldly, if I'm not wrong, you're also an arrow at the end of its flight. If you want to kill me, it depends on whether you have the ability to... He did not finish his words. Ningyu leaped up and punched out fiercely. Ningyu's punch brought along a violent gust of essence chi and hit Bai Feng's face hard. Puchi! The terrifying force blasted half of Bai Feng's face on the spot. A mist of blood appeared in the air. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and Bai Feng was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Crack! Coincidentally, there was a mountain peak behind Bai Feng. Bai Feng's body smashed into the mountain peak, directly breaking it in half. After today, Bai Feng will no longer exist in this world. After his attack succeeded, Ningyu did not give Bai Feng any chance. After all, giving the enemy a chance was digging his own anger. Ningyu chased after him and appeared in front of Bai Feng in an instant. His fists swung repeatedly, and countless fist shadows appeared in an instant. Every punch landed heavily on Bai Feng's face. After throwing out hundreds of punches, Ningyu stopped. As for Bai Feng, he fell from the air and landed heavily in front of Ningyu. Bai Feng raised his arm with difficulty and pointed at Ningyu. He wanted to say something, but before he could make a sound, he died on the spot. Ding! After Bai Feng died, the full moon scimitar fell directly in front of Ningyu, emitting a crisp sound. Seeing the full moon blade in front of him, Ningyu raised his eyebrows. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, he had only destroyed Bai Feng's physical body. As for Bai Feng's primordial spirit, it was still intact. According to Ningyu's original plan, he would wait for Bai Feng's primordial spirit to escape, then use a secret technique to imprison it and wait for an opportunity to ask some questions about the higher planes. But Bai Feng's primordial spirit did not appear. Instead, a full moon blade had fallen. How could Ningyu not be surprised? Come here. At this time, Ningyu was not in the mood to care about anything else. He had to find Bai Feng's primordial spirit and kill it. Otherwise, if Bai Feng tried to possess him again, the consequences would be unimaginable. The full moon blade drew a beautiful arc in the air before landing in Ningyu's hand. Could it be that Bai Feng's primordial spirit is in the full moon blade? Ningyu stared at the full moon blade and asked doubtfully. That's right, his primordial spirit is in the full moon blade. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly rang out in Ningyu's mind. The Red Fiend. Without a doubt, the one who spoke was the Red Fiend. Previously, the Red Fiend had asked Ningyu for Li Weilong's primordial spirit. Now that Bai Feng's primordial spirit was stronger than Li Weilong's, the Red Fiend naturally targeted it again. In the Red Fiend's opinion, if he could devour the full moon blade's primordial spirit, he could control the Red Fiend's sword to devour the full moon blade. Chapter 1895. Ningyu, give me the full moon scimitar. The Red Fiend's voice rang in Ningyu's mind again. I'll devour Bai Feng's essence spirit. The Red Fiend will devour the full moon scimitar. Rumble. The Red Fiend's words made Ningyu's heart skip a beat. Ningyu was not stupid. Since the Red Fiend could say that, it meant that he was not far from coming out of seclusion. Before entering seclusion, the Red Fiend was very weak. Previously, Ningyu did not have high hopes for the Red Fiend. After all, no matter how talented he was, he could not break through several levels and reach the Sage Realm in a single seclusion. But now, Ningyu changed his mind. After all, the Red Fiend had devoured many precious things, including terrifying existences like Li Weilong's essence spirit. In fact, a few days ago, Ningyu had even given him the last bit of immortal ascension grass. Devouring the immortal ascension grass and Li Weilong's essence spirit. Coupled with the Red Fiend's unique characteristics, Ningyu believed that once the Red Fiend devoured by Feng's essence spirit, he could break through his limits and give him a huge surprise. I'll protect you. Ningyu did not choose to waste his breath. He grabbed the full moon scimitar and threw it into the Red Fiend. The Red Fiend had its own space, so it was not a problem to store the full moon scimitar. But to prevent Bai Feng's essence spirit from causing trouble, Ningyu still wrapped all his essence chi around the full moon scimitar. If Bai Feng's essence spirit dared to resist, he would immediately help the Red Fiend. Give me 3 days. The Red Fiend did not argue with Ningyu. With his relationship with Ningyu, this small favor was not a big deal. While the Red Fiend was busy devouring Bai Feng's essence spirit in Alchemy Emperor City. At this moment, most of the experts in Alchemy Emperor City had already left. City Lord Residence, Conference Hall. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely realize that he knew most of the people here. Human Demon was at the front, while Ning Lu, Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an, Zhao Hang, Wu Patian, and War God Crane were at his sides. As for Old Man Tianji, Yun Mu, Ziyun, and the rest, they stood in the hall obediently. There's news from Four Corner City. Several of Ningyu's friends are trapped there. Human Demon looked around and said in a low voice, "As far as I know, these friends have an unusual relationship with Ningyu. Some of them even followed Ningyu from the Great Xia Kingdom. The reason I gathered everyone here today is to ask how many of you are willing to go with him to Foursquare City in 3 days. I'll go there." When Ningyu went to the back mountain of Four Corner City to look for immortal crystal veins, he did not bring the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei with him. Ningyu thought that after solving the problem of the immortal crystal veins, he would be able to meet up with the Dark Emperor and the rest. Who would have thought that there would be a huge change, causing him and Ning Lu to take the teleportation array to Pill Emperor City? Once they arrived at Pill Emperor City, many things happened, causing Ningyu to have no time to care about the Dark Emperor and the rest. Now, the Dark Emperor sent someone to bring news, saying that they were trapped in Four Corner City and wanted Ningyu to immediately send reinforcements. When they got the news, the first reaction of Meng Chang'an and the rest was to immediately bring people over. Fortunately, Human Demon and Ning Lu returned and stopped them. With Human Demon's many years of experience, he felt that this was a trap against Ningyu and all of them. "I'll definitely go." Meng Chang'an expressed his attitude first. He also had a good relationship with Human Demon. If Human Demon went to Four Corner City, he would definitely go. Moreover, with the terrifying talent that Ningyu had displayed, it was a very wise choice to firmly tie with Ningyu. "I'll go too." "Me too." "Kill our way over." Then Yi Jiansong, Zhao Heng, Wu Patian, and Divine War Crane all expressed their attitudes. After all, in their hearts, Human Demon's current strength had already reached the peak of Immortal Spirit Realm. He was probably not much weaker than Gong Yanqing. With Human Demon around, they were just going to go through the motions. All right, the trip to Four Corner City will definitely be very dangerous. I'll give you 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, we'll gather outside Pill Emperor City. Human Demon stood up from his seat with a swoosh, and a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Hiss! Wu Patian and the others sucked in a breath of cold air as they sensed the terrifying aura emanating from the Human Demon. If one were to say that they were still a little worried before, then that bit of worry in their hearts had completely vanished now. With Human Demon's current strength, he should be able to easily kill Gong Yanqing. All of you are dismissed. Also, Old Man Tianji and Ning Lu stay behind. Human Demon's aura disappeared in a flash. Then he waved his hand and said, Yi Jiansong and the rest didn't dare to delay and immediately chose to leave. A moment later, only Old Man Tianji and Ning Lu were left in the conference hall. Old Man Tianji, You said that the person who contacted you from Four Corner City also knows divination? Human Demon asked with a frown. That's right, that person also knows divination, and he's even stronger than me. Old Man Tianji nodded with a solemn expression. Only a few of them knew about the news from Four Corner City. On the surface, it was said that Dark Sovereign had sent someone to deliver the news, but in fact, it was just someone who knew divination and used divination to pass the message to Old Man Tianji. Of course, they used the secret language of divination among themselves. Even if others heard it, they wouldn't understand it. As far as I know, there's a heavenly secret sect in a high-level plane. Could it be that they've also sent someone down? Human Demon frowned and murmured. High-level planes were vast. Even a true Earth immortal wouldn't dare say that they could set foot in any area. However, the heavenly secret sect had always been mysterious. They claimed to hold the heavenly secrets in their hands, and were the honored guests of various large sects and factions. Therefore, even if the heavenly secret sect didn't have many disciples, they could be called one of the most terrifying factions in the high-level planes. Heavenly secret sect. Old Man Tianji's heart trembled. He seemed to have guessed something and hurriedly said, "If I remember correctly, there should be someone who knows divination by Gong Yangqing's side." Swoosh. Hearing Old Man Tianji's words, Human Demon stood up with a swoosh and a terrifying aura pressed down on Old Man Tianji. He said in a deep voice, "Why didn't you say so earlier? Senior, please withdraw your aura." Being suppressed by Human Demon's aura, Old Man Tianji knelt on the spot and said shakily, "Generally speaking, people who know divination aren't very strong. I thought that the person who knows divination by Gong Yangqing's side wouldn't be able to stir up any waves, so..." Fool! Human Demon berated. Others might not know, but how could he not know? If it was an outer member of the heavenly secret sect, it would be fine. Their strength wouldn't be that strong. But if it was an inner member of the heavenly secret sect, then their strength would reach a terrifying degree. Use divination now and see what the divination is over at Four Corner City. After thinking about it, Human Demon felt that he should let Old Man Tianji do the divination. Although Old Man Tianji wasn't a true disciple of the heavenly secret sect, he still knew some superficial knowledge of divination. Chapter 1896. All right. The elder of Tianji dared not delay the Human Demon's order. He immediately took out a 1,000-year-old turtle shell and began to perform his divination technique. Actually, even if the Human Demon had given the order, the elder of Tianji would have performed the divination himself. After all, he had to tag along on this trip to Four Corner City. If he knew the danger level of this trip in advance, he would have a better idea. Otherwise, going to Four Corner City like this would be like barging in blindly. Crack! However, just as the elder of Tianji performed his divination technique, a long crack appeared on the 1,000-year-old turtle shell in his hand. Oh no, someone is using a divination technique to stop me. The sudden change caused the elder of Tianji's expression to change drastically. Generally speaking, there could only be two reasons for a 1,000-year-old turtle shell to break. The first was that he was using a divination technique to spy on the fate of a person with great fortune. The second was that someone was using a divination technique to stop him, and the opponent's divination technique was much stronger than his. Judging from the way the turtle shell broke, it was clearly the second reason. This time, I'll destroy your turtle shell as a warning. If I find out that you dare to spy on the divination technique again, don't blame me for being rude. A cold snort resounded in the meeting hall. The elder of Tianji was not the only one who heard this voice. Even the Human Demon and Ning Lu heard it clearly. It's indeed an inner disciple of the Heavenly Fortune sect. The Human Demon's expression darkened. It was rumored that the lowest cultivation among the inner disciples of the Heavenly Fortune sect was an Earth Immortal. If it was just an Earth Immortal, the Human Demon would not have shown such an expression. After all, this was the Immortal Spirit region. Even if an Earth Immortal descended, he would only have the strength of a half-step human immortal. However, Every inner disciple of the Heavenly Fortune sect had an extremely terrifying artifact in their hands. Divination stones. They were different from the divination masters of the lower planes. The divination masters of the lower planes all used turtle shells. The weaker ones used 100-year turtle shells, while the stronger ones, such as Old Man Tianji, used 1,000-year turtle shells. The people of the Heavenly Fortune sect all used divination stones. Not only could the divination stone be used for divination, but it was also a terrifying item that could increase the user's strength 3 times. In other words, if a disciple of the Tianji sect had the cultivation of a worldly immortal, then with the Tianji stone, they would be able to display the power of an earthly immortal. Most importantly, the divine fate stone could hide the secrets of the heavens. Even if he unleashed the strength of an earth immortal, he would not be affected by the plane barrier. This was what worried the demonic human the most. Pucci. The moment the disciple from the Heavenly Secrets sect finished speaking, the elder of Heavenly Secrets spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. His entire face was deathly pale. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or Heavenly Secrets, the old man of Heavenly Secrets was far from the disciple of the Heavenly Secrets gate. If not for that person from the Heavenly Secrets sect holding back, Old Man Tianji would have been a corpse by now. Of course, this was under the premise that the human demon did not make a move. Once the human demon made a move, protecting the elder of Heavenly Secrets would not be a problem. The disciple from the Heaven Secrets sect probably realized this, so he hurriedly gave a warning before disappearing without a trace. What do we do now? Elder Tianji asked as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Even a clay figurine had some anger, let alone the elder of Heavenly Secrets. After being ridiculed by the Heavenly Secrets gate, the elder of Heavenly Secrets had to regain his face. The human demon swept his gaze over the elder of Heavenly Secrets and waved his hand. Go and rest first. We will depart for Quadrant City in 3 days. All right. Although the elder of Heavenly Secrets wanted to depart now, he had not lost his reason. 3 days was just the right time. Who knows? Maybe his understanding of Heavenly Secrets would increase by another level after 3 days. After all, he had gained a lot from fighting the Heavenly Secrets Gate's disciples. After the elder of Heavenly Secrets left, the human demon looked at Ning Lu and asked, "Are you still unable to contact Ning Yu?" Ning Lu shook his head and said, "I know Ning Yu's character. He won't come back without killing Bai Feng. Bai Feng is not that easy to kill." The human demon took a deep breath. "With my current strength, I can't say I have a 100% chance of winning against Bai Feng. Bai Feng's strongest weapon is the crescent blade in his hand." After some thought, Ning Lu said, "If Ning Yu can find a way to destroy the crescent blade, his chances of winning will greatly increase." Ning Lu still had lingering fears when the crescent blade was mentioned. At that time, he and Ning Yu had teamed up and used all their trump cards to block the blade seal from the crescent blade. Now that Ning Yu was going to deal with Bai Feng, Ning Lu would definitely be worried. Right before Ning Yu went after Bai Feng, I think I saw you send something into his body. Frowning slightly, the human demon said in confusion. After that thing entered Ning Yu's body, I clearly felt that Ning Yu's physical strength had increased a lot. That was Qilin blood. Ning Lu did not hide and said honestly, a long time ago, Ning Yu experienced true dragon blood tempering his body. At that time, his physical strength was already very strong. Now that he's been tempered by Qilin blood, it is reasonable for his physical strength to increase a little. Within reason, the human demon's expression was a little exaggerated. Pacing back and forth in the hall, the human demon said, "Do you know how strong Ning Yu's physical body is? With just his physical strength, he can even fight a complete saint. In other words, a half-step human immortal. If he has some other trump cards, I'm afraid he can fight evenly with Bai Feng." In truth, the human demon was already regretting it. He regretted not helping Ning Yu after his cultivation recovered to its peak, instead choosing to come to Pill Emperor City. But it was useless to say anything now. The human demon could only pray that Ning Yu would come back soon. At the same time, in a hidden area, Ning Yu's eyes suddenly opened, and he couldn't help but let out a long sigh. The essence of the world tree is indeed extraordinary. Ning Yu's face lit up. When he was tempered by the world tree, Ning Yu's physical strength had a qualitative leap. Now, after 3 days of recuperation, Ning Yu found that his physical strength had increased a lot again. If he fought by phone again, even by phone wouldn't be a match for him in terms of physical strength. Ning Lu has reached the peak of saint and awakened a lot of memories. I can ask him to give me some sacred martial techniques to cultivate. Ning Yu's eyes turned, and he focused his attention on Ning Lu. In ancient times, some powerful beings would sit under the world tree for dozens or even hundreds of years to gain enlightenment. There were even some ancient powerful beings who sat under the world tree for tens of thousands of years. Those powerful beings would practice martial techniques, mental cultivation methods, and alchemy under the world tree. Although Ning Yu had the supreme 9-purity sword art, the emperor art, and the netherworld samsara palm, the sacred martial techniques couldn't satisfy him anymore as the enemies he faced grew stronger. The sacred martial techniques were fine against sages, but against real immortals, they might not be enough. Chapter 1897. Crack. Just as Ning Yu was secretly thinking about how to extort Ning Lu, a crisp voice suddenly rang in his ear. Ning Yu was ecstatic when he heard that voice. Needless to say, the voice was definitely coming from the Red Devil. Or rather, it was the Red Devil sword. In 3 days, the Red Devil had already devoured Bai Feng's primordial spirit. After devouring Bai Feng's primordial spirit and Li Weilong's primordial spirit, the Red Devil had directly advanced to the peak of the Sage Realm. To be honest, Ning Yu rolled his eyes when he saw the Red Devil advance to the peak of the Sage Realm. He had gone through a lot of hardships to advance to the peak of the Sage Realm, but the Red Devil and Ning Lu had easily advanced to the peak of the Sage Realm. It was really infuriating to compare humans to trees and humans to demons. However, after the Red Devil advanced to the peak of the Sage Realm, he did not show off to Ning Yu. Instead, he wholeheartedly helped the Red Devil sword devour the full moon scimitar. Ning Yu knew that the Red Devil sword could devour the energy of flying swords. In the past 3 days, the Red Devil sword had devoured the broken Black Dragon sword and the full moon scimitar. In fact, Ning Yu even wanted to let the Red Devil sword devour the heavenly fire elixir cauldron. In the end, Ning Yu gave up on the idea and let the Red Devil sword devour the incorporeal elixir cauldron. After devouring so many high-level Dharma treasures, the Red Devil sword did not disappoint Ning Yu. As a crisp sound rang out, the Red Demon sword finally broke free from its shackles. It advanced a step further and advanced to the true saint level. The full moon scimitar and the Black Dragon sword had played an important role in the Red Devil sword's advancement to the level of a sage-level Dharma treasure. However, most importantly, the Red Devil sword had completely refined the Pill Puppet Clan expert trapped in the array formation within it. There was an array formation within the Red Devil sword, and the Pill Puppet Clan expert was trapped within the array formation. Relying on the terrifying energy contained within the expert's body, the Red Devil sword and the Red Devil sword could successfully advance to the peak of the sage level. Feeling the aura emanating from his body, the Red Demon could not help but let out a long breath. To be honest, it was all thanks to the 2 primordial spirits provided by Ning Yu that he was able to successfully advance to the peak of the Sage Realm. Thank you. The Red Fiend retracted his aura, held the Red Fiend sword, and said to Ning Yu, "We can fight side by side again in the future." Ning Yu pounded the Red Devil's chest and said, "Who are we? There's no need to thank me." The Red Fiend smiled and handed the Red Fiend sword to Ning Yu. Ning Yu's expression was solemn. He slowly extended his right hand and grasped the hilt of the Red Demon's sword. Rumble. As soon as he held the Red Demon's sword, Ning Yu felt an extremely terrifying energy surge toward his body. Ning Yu was shocked. The grade of the Red Demon's sword was most likely not just a simple sage grade. It was infinitely close to the immortal grade. Above Saint rank magic treasures were immortal rank magic treasures. Generally speaking, inferior immortal rank magic treasures corresponded to human immortals. Intermediate immortal rank magic treasures corresponded to earth immortals. Superior immortal rank magic treasures corresponded to celestial immortals. From the depths of the red demon's sword, Ningyu felt an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation. Although the energy fluctuation was very obscure, Ningyu's sharp senses still detected it. I'm afraid the red demon sword is not as simple as it seems. Ningyu frowned. The red demon sword always surprised him. Logically speaking, the red demon sword was the sword spirit of the red demon sword, so it should know the origin of the red demon sword. However, even a red demon sword could not explain it clearly. Forget it. I'll think about it later. Ningyu shook his head and temporarily put these thoughts to the back of his mind. Now that he had taken care of by phone, the red demon had advanced to the peak of the sage grade, and the red demon sword had also reached the sage grade. It was time to return to Alchemy Emperor's City. I've wasted so much time. I wonder if the matter in Alchemy Emperor's City has been resolved. Ningyu flicked his wrist and put the red demon sword into his storage ring. He then leaped up and rushed toward Alchemy Emperor's City. The red demon followed closely behind Ningyu. Before returning to Alchemy Emperor's City, Ningyu first passed by the place where he fought with Baifeng. When he did not find a human demon and Ning Lu there, Ningyu's expression became slightly ugly. He had told Ning Lu and the human demon to stay where they were and wait for him. Now that Ning Lu and the human demon had disappeared, he was naturally worried. Next, Ningyu increased his speed to the limit and did not stop along the way. He rushed toward Alchemy Emperor's City without stopping. When Ningyu and the red demon arrived at Alchemy Emperor's City, it was already evening. Standing at the gate of Alchemy Emperor's City, Ningyu frowned. He released his senses and did not find the human demon and Ning Lu in Alchemy Emperor's City. Not to mention the human demon and Ning Lu, he did not even find Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an, and the others. What's going on? Ningyu's face was unsightly as he stopped a heavenly sovereign and solemnly said, "What happened in the Pill Emperor's City for the past few days? Did someone attack? Who do you think you are? Let me go." Ah, so it's Ningyu. Nothing has happened in the Alchemy Emperor's City for the past few days. The heavenly sovereign that was stopped by Ningyu initially wanted to ridicule. But when he saw Ningyu's face, he immediately changed his words. Ever since you killed Gong Yanqing, practically all the experts have left. Right now, there's not a single saint in the Alchemy Emperor's City. There's not a single saint? Ningyu knitted his brows. Seeing Ningyu's doubt, the heavenly sovereign explained, "In the morning, senior human demon brought city Lord Yi Jiansong, the president of the Alchemy Union, Meng Chang'an, and several other pinnacle experts out of the Alchemy Union. As for the other experts, they left not long after senior human demon and the rest left." They left. Do you know what they went to do? Ningyu asked. I heard that someone found origin energy in the Myriad Demon Ridge. Everyone in the celestial spirit realm with a bit of strength has gone there to try their luck. The heavenly sovereign answered honestly. I joined a mercenary group. I'll be heading to the Myriad Demon Ridge in a while. The Myriad Demon Ridge, huh? Ningyu murmured. A long time ago, he had heard some news from the cultivator in the Emperor Palace's prison. There was origin energy in the Myriad Demon Ridge. But he was puzzled. Even if the news had been leaked, the human demon shouldn't have brought so many people to the Myriad Demon Ridge. At the very least, he should have left someone behind to wait for him. Who is it? At this moment, Ningyu's face changed. He suddenly took out the red demon's sword and slashed at the void in the distance. Crack! Ningyu's sword directly split the void in half. Puffed. A martial artist in gray robes fell from the void. Seeing that he couldn't kill the other party with a single move, Ningyu was a little surprised. One must know that although he didn't use his full strength in that attack, it was enough to kill an initial phase saint. Chapter 1898. Speak. Why are you spying on me? Ningyu sheathed the red demon's sword and looked at the pinnacle sky, supreme coldly. If you can't give me a good explanation today, then don't even think about leaving. I'm not spying on you. The pinnacle sky supreme rolled his eyes and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I just happened to pass by and saw your extraordinary bearing. So, before he could even finish his sentence, he felt his body lighten as he was sent flying backwards. Fresh blood spurted out of his mouth, and his aura instantly dropped to the freezing point. I hate people who don't speak the truth. Ningyu waved his hand and turned to the red demon. Kill him and devour his Yuan spirit. Rumble. The pinnacle sky supreme's heart trembled when he heard Ningyu's words. I'm from Four Corner City. My name is Xie Fei. Ningyu knitted his brows and looked at Xie Fei without saying a word. Ningyu didn't speak, but Xie Fei didn't dare to. For the sake of his life, he could only brace himself and say, Someone from the Heaven's secret sect predicted that you would appear, so they asked me to bring you a message. Submit or die. Plop. After saying that, Xie Fei collapsed to the ground. Xie Fei was well aware of Ningyu's character. He was willing to sacrifice himself for his friends. But to his enemies, he was crueler than anyone. How arrogant! Ningyu said coldly. Since you're here, why don't you come out and meet me? Xie Fei knitted his brows. Could there be someone else in the surrounding space? Soon enough, Xie Fei understood what was going on. There was someone in his body, not in the air. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Xie Fei exploded and a black figure darted out from his body. Kiki, Ningyu, I admit that you're strong, but what's the use? The black figure let out a strange laugh. Your friends, the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei, are in our hands. How are you going to fight us? Kaka. Hearing this, Ningyu clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Whether it was the Dark Emperor or Lu Wei, they were both his reverse scales. Dragons had reverse scales, and those who touched them would die. Ningyu also had a reverse scale. If he touched it, he would also die. Xiao. In an instant, Ningyu turned into a shadow and rushed out. You've come just in time. Master said you're the immortal spirit realm son of the plane, but I don't believe it. Looking at Ningyu, who was charging toward him, the black shadow sneered. Soon after, the black shadow abruptly expanded and enveloped the entire region. Voila! Following that, countless cold lights swept out from the sky and blasted towards Ningyu. Sword come. Although there were many cold lights attacking him, Ningyu did not slow down at all. He made a grabbing motion with his right hand, and the red demon's sword instantly appeared in his hand. Kill! As Ningyu shouted, the red demon's sword suddenly slashed down. A massive sword aura separated from the red demon's sword. Chi, chi, chi. The sword ray did not show the slightest fear or retreat in the face of so many cold lights. Instead, it became more and more courageous. Almost in an instant, the cold lights in the air were all destroyed. After the cold lights dissipated, the sword ray still charged toward the black shadow with great power. You're really something. The black shadow did not panic when the cold lights were destroyed, but he was slightly moved. He was a disciple of the Heavenly Secret Sect. Although he was restricted by the plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm and could not display his peak strength, it was not a problem for him to display the strength of a half-step human immortal. I'll show you what a real human immortal is like. The corner of the black shadow's mouth curled into a smile. He waved his hands, and then a terrifying wave of energy surged out from his body. Human immortal fist. A low roar came from the black shadow's mouth. Watch out! Seeing the black shadow's fist ray, the red demon's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly shouted. At the same time, the red demon stepped forward and wanted to help. Don't worry. Guard the surroundings for me. Remember not to let him escape. Ningyu waved his hand and said to the red demon, A mere human immortal fist can't do anything to me. Although he said that, Ningyu's expression was very solemn. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the human immortal fist in the air. Ha ha ha! Seeing Ningyu's action, the black shadow could not help but laugh out loud, as if he had seen the funniest thing in the world. My human immortal fist can easily kill a half-step human immortal. You're only at the peak of the sage realm. How can you resist it? How is this possible? However, before the black shadow could finish his words, his mouth opened slightly and his face was full of disbelief. One should know that when he was in a high-level plane, he had used this human immortal fist to kill a half-step human immortal. Ningyu's cultivation was only at the peak of the sage realm. How could he resist his human immortal fist? Moreover, not only did Ningyu resist his human immortal fist, but he also turned from defense to offense and threw a punch at him. Looks like I have underestimated you. The black shadow was indeed from the Heaven Fortune sect. He reacted quickly, seeing that Ningyu was about to reach him. He took a deep breath and took out the Heaven Fortune stone. Every member of the Heaven Secret sect had a Heaven Secret stone in their hands. The Heaven Fortune stone was extremely powerful in both offense and defense. Red Demon Sword. Seeing the black shadow take out the Heaven Fortune stone, Ningyu was finally moved. Even though he looked down on the black shadow, he could not help but look solemn when he saw the Heaven Fortune stone. With the strength of his monarch-level soul power, he could naturally tell that the Heaven Fortune stone was unusual. I must get this stone. Ningyu immediately took out the red demon sword and slashed at the Heaven Fortune stone in the black shadow's hand. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Ningyu controlled the flying sword to slash at the Heaven Fortune stone in his hand, the black shadow sneered. If you can break the Heaven Fortune stone, I will change my surname to yours. Sorry, my target is not the Heaven Fortune stone. Just as the red demon sword was about to hit the Heaven Fortune stone, Ningyu suddenly moved the red demon sword away and slashed at the black shadow. Oh no! This sudden change was clearly not what the black shadow had expected. Due to his arrogance, he had lost the basic vigilance of a martial artist. Crack! Although he tried his best to dodge, the black shadow still could not avoid the red demon sword slash. The sword rose and the arm fell. Although Ningyu's attack did not completely kill the black shadow, it chopped off the black shadow's arm. We will meet again. The black shadow was not an indecisive person. After his arm was chopped off, he made a prompt decision to leave. Although he might not be a match for Ningyu if he used the Heaven Fortune stone to increase his strength 3 times. However, under such circumstances, he obviously did not want to use the Heaven Fortune stone. After all, Ningyu's friends were in Four Corner City. If Ningyu wanted his friends to live, he would definitely go to Four Corner City. As long as Ningyu went to Four Corner City, it would be Ningyu's death. At that time, he could slowly torture Ningyu and make Ningyu's life worse than death. Chapter 1899. I'm sorry, but the grudge between us has to be settled today. Without the Heaven Secret Stone, and without news of the Dark Emperor and the rest, how could Ningyu let the Black Figure leave? No matter what, Ningyu had to capture the Black Phantom today. Moreover, he had to capture it alive. I am from the Heaven Secret sect. How dare you stop me? The Black Figure's eyes were bloodshot as he said coldly, all those who go against the Heaven Secret sect must die. Noisy. Ningyu couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with the Black Figure. He needed to understand the situation of the Dark Emperor and the rest as soon as possible. Therefore, he wielded the Red Devil Sword and instantly burst forth with shocking speed. Before the Black Figure could react, he had already arrived beside him. Kacha! Sheathing, the sword fell. This time, Ningyu chopped off the other arm of the Black Figure. 2 swords, 2 arms. The Black Figure's strength was greatly reduced. You forced me to do this. The Black Figure was extremely furious. He decided to use the Heaven Secret Stone to kill Ningyu at all costs. If he didn't kill Ningyu today, he wouldn't be able to vent his hatred. Trying to play tricks in front of me? Sorry, you're still too young. Ningyu was already on guard against the Black Figure. The Heaven Secret Stone must have some secret inside, since the Black Figure placed so much importance on it. Ningyu couldn't let the Black Figure use such a treasure, no matter what. Divine Sword Wave. Sky Splitting. Creation Fist. Almost in an instant, Ningyu displayed 3 Sage Tier martial skills. Without the Red Devil Sword in the past, Ningyu couldn't unleash his peak strength when executing these 3 Sage martial techniques. Now that he had the Red Devil Sword, the power of these three techniques had reached the peak. Just by using these three techniques, Ningyu could easily deal with a half-step human immortal, which was equivalent to a sage in the Great Perfection stage. The black figure in front of him was only a half-step human immortal without the Heaven's Secret Stone. Ningyu could easily kill such a person. Ding, ding, ding. However, the black shadow naturally would not stand still and let Ningyu kill it. Divine Sword Wave and Sky Splitting were both blocked by the black figure using the Heaven Fate Stone. As for the Fist of Creation, it landed on the black shadow's chest. The intense pain that came from his chest caused the shadow of the black shadow to dissipate, revealing his true appearance. She was about 20 years old, with fair skin and clean face, and her beautiful hair fluttering in the wind. I will tear you apart. The black shadow, no, he should be called the white-faced martial artist. The white-faced martial artist opened his mouth and angrily said, "You're finished. No one in this world can save you. I'm going to kill you, skin you alive, and refine you into a puppet." As he spoke, the white-faced martial artist directly swallowed the Heaven Fate Stone. Buzz! As the Heavenly Fate Stone entered his mouth, the white-masked cultivator's aura soared at a terrifying rate. Half-step human immortal. Peak of half-step human immortal. Human immortal. Mid-human immortal stage. In a short period of time, the white-faced martial artist's aura had reached the terrifying middle stage of human immortal. Ningyu was shocked. This was the immortal spirit region, and there were plane barriers here. Initially, he thought that even if the white-faced martial artist used the Heaven Fate Stone, his strength would only increase by a little. Who would have thought that the white-faced martial artist's strength would increase by more than 10 times? Crack! At the same time, in a secret chamber in Four Corner City, an old man suddenly smashed the jade cup in his hand. "Who is it? How dare you force my disciple to use the Heaven Fate Stone?" The old man's face was extremely gloomy, and the surrounding air seemed to have frozen. Could it be Ningyu? Soon, the old man seemed to have thought of something and frowned. No, Ningyu only has the cultivation of a peak sage. No matter how strong he is, he can't force my disciple to use the Heaven Fate Stone. Forget it, I'll ask him when he comes back. After thinking for a moment, the old man instantly retracted his aura, sat down cross-legged, and closed his eyes. The white-faced martial artist was unaware of the old man's actions. However, the white-faced martial artist knew that his master would definitely know that he had used the Heaven Fate Stone. 10 seconds. The white-faced martial artist did not waste even a second. After his aura increased to the intermediate stage of a human immortal, he immediately attacked Ningyu. Although the Heaven Fate Stone could increase his strength, there was a time limit. After all, this was the immortal spirit realm, and there was a plane barrier. In other words, even the Heaven Fate Stone could not hide from the plane barrier for too long. Once the plane barrier sensed his intermediate stage human immortal cultivation, it would definitely suppress him or even send him to a higher plane. 10 seconds is enough to kill you. The white-faced martial artist twisted his neck, turned his body into a fist, and suddenly punched. Human immortal fist. Just now, the white-faced martial artist was only a sage in the Great Perfection realm. Although his human immortal fist was strong, it could not pose a threat to Ningyu. Now that his cultivation had increased to the intermediate stage human immortal, the power of the human immortal fist would increase by more than a few times. Enter the Red Fiend Sword. Ningyu's expression turned extremely serious, and he said to the Red Fiend, "I'm going to attack with all my strength." Although the 3 sage-ranked martial techniques that Ningyu executed earlier were very powerful, they were still far from enough to deal with the pale-face cultivator with just 3 sage-ranked martial techniques. Luckily, the 3 sage martial skills were not Ningyu's trump card. After the Red Fiend Sword was upgraded to a Sage Flying Sword, Ningyu's trump card had become the Red Fiend Sword. To be more precise, it was the Red Fiend Sword and the Red Fiend Sword fused together. Ningyu's elemental chi surged, and all of it was injected into the Red Fiend Sword. Then, He leaped into the air and slashed down fiercely. Ha ha ha. Even if you're a real human immortal, killing you is like slaughtering a dog. The white-faced martial artist raised his head and laughed maniacally. He admitted that the flying sword in Ning Yu's hand was very strong, but that was all. After all, the power of the human immortal fist that he had displayed was extremely strong. Not to mention that Ning Yu's cultivation was only at the peak of his sage stage. Even if Ning Yu's cultivation was raised to human immortal, the white-faced martial artist would still be fearless. It's too early for you to be happy. The corner of Ning Yu's mouth curled up, and he swung the red fiend's sword in his hand. Swoosh! The red fiend's sword drew a beautiful arc in the air, and then it collided head-on with the human immortal fist that the white-faced martial artist had displayed. Kaboom! When the two collided, an extremely terrifying sound was suddenly heard. Oh no, human immortal. When the red fiend's sword and the human immortal fist collided, the white-faced martial artist realized that something was wrong. He hurriedly turned his body into a fist and wanted to use the human immortal fist again. Puffed. However, it was obviously too late for the white-faced martial artist to use the human immortal fist again. Ning Yu appeared in front of him and punched his head. Boom! Ning Yu's punch was so powerful that it directly exploded the white-faced martial artist's head. Countless blood mists flew everywhere, and the white-faced martial artist's body was directly destroyed. Swoosh! Although his body was destroyed, the white-faced martial artist still did not die. His primordial spirit immediately used a secret skill and flew far away. Moreover, as he flew away, he did not forget to leave behind a vicious sentence. Chapter 1900. Pay me back double. The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up, and he immediately said coldly, I'm sorry, but you may not have the chance. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Yu stomped his feet on the ground, and his body instantly dashed out. The white-faced martial artist was from the Heavenly Secret Sect, and he came from Four Corner City. How could Ning Yu let him go? Even if he could not extract his memories, he had to kill him. Otherwise, when he returned to Four Corner City successfully, the Dark Emperor, Liu Wei, and the others would be in danger. Chi, the white-faced martial artist, was only left with his primordial spirit. Even if he flew with all his might, his speed could not compare to Ning Yu's. It only took 3 minutes for Ning Yu to catch up with the white-faced martial artist, blocking his path of retreat. I am from the Heavenly Secret Sect. If you dare to kill me, your friend will definitely be killed by my master. Seeing that there was no way out, the white-faced martial artist forced himself to calm down and said coldly, Why don't we make a deal? You let me go, and when I return to Four Corner City, I will definitely beg my master to let your friend go. Why do you have so much to say? Ning Yu could not be bothered to talk nonsense with a white-faced martial artist. If he was afraid of the Heavenly Secret Sect, or if he was a naive person, he might be fooled by the white-faced martial artist. However, he had lived 2 lives, and the Heavenly Secret Sect was a high-level sect. No matter how powerful it was, it had little to do with him now. Therefore, no matter how glib the white-faced martial artist was, it was impossible for him to convince Ning Yu. At most, we'll fight to the death. Seeing that Ning Yu was not moved at all, and instead, he waved the red demon sword in his hand and quickly attacked him. The white-faced martial artist immediately shouted. At the same time, in the process of shouting, the white-faced martial artist's body made a sizzling sound. From the looks of it, he wanted to detonate his primordial spirit and perish together with Ning Yu. If you wanted to detonate your soul to take me down with you right from the start, perhaps I would have some reservations. But now I'm sorry it's too late. The red demon sword in Ning Yu's hand suddenly shot out, slashing at the white-faced martial artist's primordial soul at an extremely terrifying speed. Previously, the red demon sword could only devour soul power or yuan qi. However, after advancing to a sage-level flying sword, the red demon sword already possessed the ability to devour essence spirits. Although the white-faced martial artist's essence soul was powerful, the red fiend was in the red fiend sword. With the Red Fiend controlling the Red Fiend sword, its ability to devour essence souls had almost reached its peak. In an instant, the Red Demon sword arrived in front of the pale-faced martial artist and pierced through his primordial spirit. When the Red Demon sword pierced through the pale-faced warrior's primordial spirit, a strong suction force suddenly sucked the pale-faced warrior's primordial spirit into his body. Wild geese leave their voices behind, and people leave their names behind. Unfortunately, the white-faced cultivator did not even leave any face before he was forcefully devoured. Shio! After devouring the pale-faced warrior's primordial spirit, the Red Fiend's figure flashed, and he emerged from the Red Demon's sword, landing beside Ningyu. In the Red Fiend's hand was a palm-sized stone, the Heaven's Secret Stone. With the pale-faced martial artist's physical body destroyed and his primordial spirit devoured, the Heaven's Secret Stone naturally fell into the Red Fiend's hands. Ningyu, from the pale-faced martial artist's memories, I found out that this Heaven's Secret Stone can be used twice, and each time it will increase your strength greatly. The Red Fiend handed the Heaven's Secret Stone to Ningyu and explained, in other words, you are now at the peak of a sage. Once you use the Heaven's Secret Stone, you will be able to instantly unleash early-stage, human immortal battle strength. After receiving the Heaven's Secret Stone from the Red Fiend, Ningyu looked around and revealed a puzzled expression. Not long ago, the pale-faced martial artist had used the Heaven's Secret Stone to forcefully raise his cultivation to mid-stage human immortal. Ningyu had witnessed it all. It could be said that without the Heaven's Secret Stone, the two pale-faced martial artists wouldn't be a match for Ningyu. How are the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei? Ningyu kept the Heaven's Secret Stone and asked. Since the Red Fiend devoured the pale-faced martial artist's primordial spirit, it meant that he had also devoured the pale-faced martial artist's memories. The pale-faced martial artist was from the Heaven's Secret sect and came from Four Corner City. He must be very clear about what was going on in Four Corner City. The Dark Emperor and Lu Wei are fine. At the mention of the Dark Emperor and the rest, the Red Fiend's expression turned solemn, and he said, but the rest. At this point, the Red Fiend didn't continue. However, although the Red Fiend didn't say it, his meaning was self-evident. Crack, crack. Ningyu's expression turned cold, and he clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. Apart from the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei, there was also a group of core members of Supreme Palace in Four Corner City. Now that they were all dead, how could Ningyu not be angry? But anger was anger. Ningyu still did not lose his reason. The pale-faced martial artist possessing the Heaven's Secret Stone meant that his master had it too. The pale-faced martial artist's strength was already horrifying enough. It could be imagined how powerful his master's strength was. Oh, right, our human devil and the rest in Four Corner City? Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and continued to ask. His main purpose of returning to Alchemy Imperial City this time was to find human devil and Ning Lu they all. Right now, they were not in Alchemy Imperial City. Ningyu was naturally very worried about their safety, fearful that they would rush to Four Corner City foolishly. Not now, but in a few hours they might be in your Four Corner City. The Red Fiend shook his head and said, there's no time to lose. Let's set off immediately. Ningyu originally wanted to stay here and recuperate for a period of time, but he was worried about the safety of human devil and Ning Lu and the rest, so he decided to set off immediately. Ningyu was very clear that the distance between Four Corner City and Alchemy Imperial City was very far. Back when he came from Four Corner City, even if he took the teleportation array, it still took a long time. I know a place with a teleportation array. The pale-faced martial artist came from that teleportation array. The Red Fiend also did not want Dark Emperor and the rest to be persecuted. He took Ningyu and skimmed towards the east of Alchemy Imperial City. The reason why the pale-faced martial artist could reach Alchemy Imperial City from Four Corner City in a short time was that he knew a hidden teleportation array. That was also because the pale-faced martial artist came from Heaven's Secret sect and knew a deep level of Heaven's secret arts. Otherwise, it was impossible to find that hidden teleportation array. Just as Ningyu and the Red Fiend went to find the teleportation array in the void not particularly far from Four Corner City, a group of people was moving forward in a mighty manner. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely discover that these people were very familiar to him. In the lead was Human Devil and Ninglu. Behind them, Wu Patian, War God Crane, Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an, Zhao Heng, and the rest were all following at full speed. Almost everyone that Ningyu knew followed along this time. At this moment, this group of people's anger was a little suppressed. Everyone was very clear that this trip did not bode well. There were experts from Heaven's secret sect in Four Corner City, and Heaven's secret sect was a sect that even Human Devil was wary of, let alone these immortal spirit realm natives. In fact, Wu Patian from a martial region and War God Crane from the War God region were vaguely regretting at this moment. They regretted placing their bets on the human demon. However, there was no free lunch in this world. Even if they were a little regretful, they did not dare to show the slightest bit of expression at this time. They could only bite the bullet and go forward. Chapter 1901. Everyone, hold on a little longer. We'll reach Four Corner City in another 3 to 4 hours. Seeing that everyone was a little depressed, the human demon said, "When we reach Four Corner City, Ning Lu, Meng Chang'an, and I will find a way to sneak into the city. As for Wu Patian, Battle God Crane, Yi Jiansong, and the rest, they will stay outside the city and be ready to receive us." The human demon was worried that this was a trap, but even if he knew it was a trap, he had no other choice but to bite the bullet. After all, the cultivators trapped in Four Corner City were Ningyu's closest friends. He didn't want to see his friends killed when Ningyu returned. No problem. Wu Patian and Battle God Crane were a little regretful, but after hearing the human demon's arrangement, they were the first to agree. Everyone knew that sneaking into Four Corner City was dangerous, and they would be exposed if they weren't careful. There were people from the Heaven's secret sect in Four Corner City, and if they were exposed, it meant that they would have to face the experts of the Heaven's secret sect. They had already witnessed the strength of the Heaven's secrets sect once, and they didn't want to see it again. It was more flexible to stay outside. If the human demon and the rest were in danger, the people outside could rescue them or retreat. Wu Patian and Battle God Crane had already made up their minds. If the human demon and the rest were at a slight disadvantage, the two of them would rescue them. But if the human demon and the rest were at an absolute disadvantage, the two of them would bring Ziyun and the rest away as soon as possible. In their view, there was no need for unnecessary sacrifices. They had already done their best to save Ziyun, Old Man Tianji, and the rest. Whoosh! Time was always slipping away unknowingly. In the blink of an eye, 3.5 hours had passed. The human demon and the rest had successfully arrived at a place 30 miles west of Four Corner City. Whoosh! 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 According to the agreement, the human demon, Ning Lu, and Meng Chang'an teleported and charged towards Four Corner City. Wu Patian, Battle God Crane, and the rest stayed where they were, quietly waiting. Whoosh! The human demon, Ning Lu, and Meng Chang'an stopped when they were 2,000 meters away from Four Corner City. After slightly casting the disguise technique and temporarily sealing their cultivation at the true martial realm, the three of them then walked toward the Four Corner City. A distance of 2,000 meters was not particularly far. Not long after, Human Demon and the other two appeared at the gate of Four Corner City. Yes, the three of you come here. Originally, Human Demon and the others were about to sneak into Four Corner City. However, just as they were about to step into the city, a creation realm warrior guarding the gate called out to them. "Why did you come to Four Corner City?" The Fate Realm cultivator crossed his arms over his chest and stared at the human demon and the others with interest. He asked, "You all look unfamiliar. Why have you come to Four Corner City?" "Sir, we came to Four Corner City mainly to buy a few kinds of medicinal herbs." Human Devil had experienced this kind of interrogation after entering the city gate many times in the higher planes. He quickly said, The three of us are at the peak of the true martial realm. We want to buy some herbs, and then ask an alchemist to help us refine dawn, while at the same time attack the Yuan Dan realm. Breaking through to the primal core stage? Just the three of you? The Fate Realm warrior pursed his lips and said disdainfully, I see that the veins in your bodies are blocked. Even if you have superior dawn, it will be difficult for them to be of any use. Sir, what do you mean? Human Demon asked without batting an eyelid. Fortunately, you met me today, and I am in a good mood. Come with me. I will help you get rid of the hidden ailments in your bodies and help you break through to the Yuan Dan realm. The Fate Realm warrior waved his hand, looking as if they were very lucky. Human Demon and Ning Lu looked at each other, then nodded involuntarily. They were not very familiar with Four Corner City, so having a free guide would save them a lot of trouble. As for why the Fate Realm warrior wanted to help them, it was actually very simple. Human Demon slightly revealed the aura of pure energy. A man's wealth was his own ruin. If the Fate Realm warrior wanted the pure energy in their bodies, they would naturally, obediently fall for it. Something big might happen in Four Corner City soon. The three of you follow me. It's best if you don't run around or look around. The Fate Realm warrior led Human Demon and the rest around Four Corner City and finally stopped outside a hidden room. The Creation Realm martial artist took out a key from his bosom and inserted it into the keyhole on the front door. Gotcha! The key turned and a crisp sound rang out. The door slowly opened. Come in. You guys sit for a while. I will go make some preparations. After leading Human Demon and the rest into the room, the Fate Realm warrior entered the inner room. Zhao Chao, why did you bring a few true martial realm warriors this time? There was only a wooden bed in the inner room. An old man was lying on the wooden bed. He was about 60 or 70 years old, and upon closer inspection, both of his legs were broken. The Fate Realm warrior called Zhao Chao came before the old man and respectfully said, Senior, don't think that these three are only at the true martial realm. They have a large amount of pure energy in their bodies. Pure energy? The old man's eyebrows raised, a little excited. He was originally an expert from a higher plane. When he descended from a higher plane, he was unfortunately ambushed by the enemy, causing him to lose most of his fighting strength. He could only hole up in Four Corner City. Fortunately, he met Zhao Chao, who was in Blessed Realm, and used flowery words to deceive him, making him serve him willingly. That's right, pure energy. A large amount of pure energy. Zhao Chao hurriedly said, Senior, as long as you can devour that pure energy, you will definitely be able to return to your peak state. Zhao Chao's eyes were filled with excitement. According to the old man's promise, as long as the old man could return to his peak state, he would give him the blessing to advance from the Fate Realm to the Sky Supreme Realm. Zhao Chao's talent was mediocre. It was already a miracle that he could cultivate to the Fate Realm. Now that he had a chance to break through to the Sky Supreme Realm, he would definitely grab it and do whatever it took to restore the old man to his peak state. For this reason, he would bring a few people here every few days for the old man to devour. Seeing that there was a high chance that the old man could return to his peak state today, how could he not be excited? Call the three of them in. You stand guard outside. Without my permission, don't let anyone in. The old man waved his hand, indicating for Zhao Chao to leave first. Zhao Chao didn't dare to tarry. He hurriedly left and went to the room where Human Demon and the rest were. After coming out, Zhao Chao said to Human Demon and the rest, You guys are lucky today. Originally, I wanted to personally resolve the hidden injuries in my body, but my master saw that your talents are better, so he decided to help you guys. Chapter 1902. Hearing Zhao Chao's words, the Human Demon pretended to be excited. Thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. It's nothing, it's what I should do. Zhao Chao waved his hand. Go in. Don't let my master wait for too long. Yes, yes. The Human Demon's face lit up as he immediately entered the room. Behind the Human Demon, Ning Lu and Meng Chang'an also entered the room without any hesitation. Oomph. Looking at their silhouettes, Zhao Chao coldly snorted in disdain. What fools! What fools! But as he snorted, Zhao Chao's heart started a dream. Right now, he was in the fortune realm, and as long as the pure energy from the human demon and the rest could allow him to recover to his pinnacle state, then the old man would imbue him with energy, allowing him to reach the heavenly sovereign realm. At the same time, in the room, the old man looked at the human demon and the rest with interest. You guys seem pretty calm. Why wouldn't I be? The human demon shrugged. At your peak, you might pose a threat to us. As for the current you, killing you is as easy as slaughtering a dog. You're courting death. The old man's face turned cold as he roared and stretched his right hand out, grabbing at the human demon. The old man immediately used a killing move, not intending to leave anyone alive. Child's play. Facing the old man's terrifying move, the human demon wasn't bothered. When they followed Zhao Chao here, the human demon and the rest had already noticed the old man and knew that his mental state wasn't at his peak. At his peak, the old man's cultivation was at the half-step human immortal realm, and his strength wasn't any weaker than the human demon. But now that the old man's legs were broken, the energy in his body was in a mess, and he was only left with 20% of his peak strength. Under this situation, would the human demon be afraid of the old man? The answer was no. Boom! Seeing that the old man's fist was about to land on the human demon suddenly dodged to the side. Crack! Shortly after, the human demon raised his right leg and kicked at the old man's right hand. A crisp sound resounded. Arg! A miserable shriek resounded from the old man's mouth. You! How dare you cripple my right hand? The old man covered his right wrist with his left hand, his face full of fear and anger. The old man was terrified because he had underestimated the human demon. With the human demon's current strength, he could easily defeat him. As for his anger, it was because the human demon had crippled his right hand. Answer a few of my questions honestly, or I'll make you pay. The human devil wouldn't waste time with this old man. His first task was to investigate Four Corner City and try his best to understand the situation of the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei. Because with every minute that passed, the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei's lives would be in greater danger. Ask away. The old man was not an obstinate person, so he expressed his willingness to cooperate with the human devil. How many people from the Heaven Secret sect are in Four Corner City? Human demon asked directly, Do you have a grudge against the Heaven Secret sect? Hearing this, the old man's heart jolted, and he hurriedly said, There are a total of 3 people from the Heaven Secret sect in Four Corner City. They are called Venerable Ku Yu, Venerable Han Ing, and Venerable Ku Yu's disciple, Bai Chong, a fake perfected being. Hiss! Human demon couldn't help but gasp when he heard the old man's words. In the Heaven Secret sect, real Earth immortals were called venerable beings. As for peak human immortals, they were called false venerable beings. In other words, Venerable Ku Yu and Venerable Han Ing were real Earth immortals in the higher realms. Even the weakest Bai Chong was a half-step Earth immortal. One should know that the higher realms were vast. It was difficult for real Earth immortals to appear in some of the borderlands. Now that there were 3 Earth immortals in Four Corner City, human demon's face turned extremely solemn. Although Earth immortals could only unleash the strength of half-step human immortals due to the existence of the realm barrier, these Earth immortals will be able to unleash the combat strength of real Earth immortals in the near future when the realm barrier completely breaks. No, I must rescue the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei before the realm barrier breaks. Human Demon knew very well that now was the best time to act. Any later, and unpredictable dangers might appear. Therefore, Human Demon made up his mind that once he finished interrogating the old man, he would go look for the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei. Sucking in a deep breath, Human Demon forced himself to calm down and asked, I heard that Taoist Master Ku Yu trapped a few people from Four Corner City, including a big black dog. Do you know where they're locked up? Dead, the old man said. Dead? This time, it wasn't just Human Demon who was shocked. Even Ning Lu and Meng Chang'an were shocked to the extreme. They had gone through so much trouble and even risked their lives to sneak into Four Corner City, only to be told that the Dark Emperor and the others were dead. Tell me the truth. Ning Lu took a step forward and unleashed a terrifying aura that pressed down on the old man. Puffed. Under the pressure of Ning Lu's aura, the old man spat out a mouthful of dark red blood on the spot. He braced himself and said, "They are indeed dead. A few days ago, Spiritual Master Ku Yu personally ordered those stubborn people to be killed. In the end, only 2 people, no, it should be said that only 1 person survived. The other one was a big black dog." "Tell me the details." Human Demon said coldly. The old man didn't dare to go against Human Demon's will. He could only tell everything he knew. He even told Human Demon about Venerable Ku Yu, Venerable Han Ing, and Bai Chang's weaknesses. Seeing that Human Demon didn't have any intention of killing him, the old man even started to fantasize. Venerable Ku Yu and the others might be strong, but Human Demon and the others weren't weak either. As long as both sides were injured, he would definitely be the one to benefit in the end. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. In the end, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. "You seem very happy." Ning Lu took a step forward. Suddenly, a dark golden branch shot out of his body and stabbed into the old man's body from the top of his head. Never in his wildest dreams would the old man have imagined that he would still be killed in the end, even after revealing everything he knew. Moreover, the way he died was very special. Almost in an instant, the yuan qi in his body was sucked dry, and he turned into a meat patty. Devouring power. The old man had thought about how he would die, but no matter what, he didn't expect to die like this. Did he lie to us? Human Demon and Meng Chang'an took Ning Lu's actions for granted. After all, the old man wanted to devour them. Now that he was devoured, he couldn't blame others. He didn't lie, but he didn't tell us one thing. Not only did Ning Lu devour the old man's yuan qi, but he also devoured his memories. From the old man's memories, Ning Lu discovered something very terrifying. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.